So that's all you need to know. I also found this out. Apparently, they're a national franchise, but Texas has its own version of shit because for Texas, we the people here bought their own franchises or some shit, and forced
So the
them to
power
keep them
goes
in
out
here.
randomly?
No, that never happened. That's not once happened. It's lies, liberal myth. And anywhere the power does go out through regularly, those are the few Democratic strongholds in Texas, if you hadn't noticed.
Yeah, our Texas grid is kind of fucked. Not gonna lie.
Anyways. The best.
Okay, ask Houston how best it was.
Like I said, Democratic stronghold. Their fault. Well, their own fault for that. I also lived in Houston for many years, so I know what I'm talking about. That one, bastards in Houston.
Well, my condolences, and
the corrupt mayor.
You made it out.
Yeah, now we're in the great, wonderful city of San Antonio. Much more conservative.
Oh, just can't seem to upgrade, can you?
You're just south of us, and it might as well be liberal. Yeah.
And yet, it's turning slowly but surely. We got the treasonous Biden administration to thank for that.
I mean, from your moves in Texas, I guess everything just moves remedially out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Waiting on Ty to get his camera handled.
Hey, Lactwood, am I going to have to break out the face paint for you today, or are you going to be on the strong side of conservatism today?
I did tell you that I was going to be, heading home, right?
You did mention that. I wasn't listening, and it went in one ear.
Yeah, I'm probably a good hour and a half from home, so sorry about that, but I was out touching grass.
Touching grass. All right.
You should check yourself for ticks. Those woody areas tend to have some problems. I wouldn't want you coming down with that Lyme disease.
The real question is, were you smoking some grass? That's the real question.
That's the other.
I gave it up a month ago, so yeah,
it's real rough.
It is rough, dude. I miss it. I miss it bad.
Gibbs, I'm probably going to be a socialist for this first topic, so I apologize. You're going to have to fight.
Better not. Don't you do it.
But the second topic, we'll unify, I'm sure. But
I don't even know which first topic is here. Which one are we talking? What is
the first topic? Find out. Welcome, one and all, to the Minds of the Ecclesia panel. I am your host, Lethe Kai, and with me, I have some awesome guests today. I'm going to go ahead and let them get an introduction, starting with Admiral Gibbs.
Hi, I'm Admiral Gibbs.
Excellent. Unlike last week, that was refreshing. Thank you. And with us today, Lactoid.
Hi, I'm Lactoid.
Okay, y'all are brutal. That's foul.
Okay, all right. I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Lethe, thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to arguing about taxes because that's something that I feel very strongly about. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Glad to have you. And with us, the amazing Desperado Sensei. We are honored.
I barely come on panels, but when I do, it's fun. I'm Desperado Sensei. I don't stream anymore, so if you see me here, that's where you see me.
We are glad to see you. And coming from the White Void, Tiberius.
Greetings, peasants. It is I, your Emperor, Tiberius D, and it is a pleasure to be here once again. I apologize for being on mobile again, but the real part is that I've been out touching grass. So I'm broadcasting live from US 41 in Indiana, and you might see a little bit of my handsome face when I get home. We'll figure that one out. But it's a pleasure to be here once again on the Lethe Waterkai panel. The minds of Ecclesia are truly the minds to be, and it's great to be here once again. Good to see you guys.
All right, so let's try to wrap this up before he gets home, everyone. And with us today also...
Lethe, did you mean by the white void, did you just mean the Midwest? Which is pretty much the white void.
No, I was meaning the color of his square, but all the same, yeah, that would be about the other implication of it. And with us today, the Doghouse Show for the first time, I believe. How are you, my dude?
First time, my bud. I've been in here plenty of times, sir. But anyways, listen, this is your boy, the Doghouse Show, coming at you live from the studio. All right, we're gonna show these darn liberals and socialists how to really rock and roll. Okay, you can find me at the Doghouse Talk Show on Twitch. You can also follow me at the Doghouse Tall on Twitter. I'm going soft first, but just wait, because I'm about to get hard. I mean, go hard.
I wasn't ready. All right, I'm just going to move forward. Trump basically charges Harris, Michigan rally crowd didn't exist, was generated with AI. Republicans and Trump are claiming the Kamala Harris campaign is misleading voters by posting AI-generated or altered photos. Do you believe that the photos have been altered? Who is responsible for editing these photos? And how much of a problem do you believe this will be? Former President Donald Trump took to social media on Monday to falsely claim that Vice President Kamala Harris' campaign faked photos of the crowd at her Detroit area rally last week using artificial intelligence. The Republican presidential nominee claimed the crowd at the airport hangar didn't exist and that nobody was there in multiple posts to his Truth Social program, sharing a post from a right-wing former congressional candidate known for spreading misinformation. The crowd did in fact exist, and the rally was attended by thousands of people, many of whom posted their own pictures and videos of the event, which are also live streamed by dozens of news channels and attended by a slew of prominent politicians. Has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it and showed a massive crowd of so-called followers, but they didn't exist. She was turned in by a maintenance worker at the airport when he noticed a fake crowd picture, but there was nobody there. Later confirmed by the reflection of the mirror-like finish on the vice presidential plane, Trump wrote, "She's a cheater. She had nobody waiting, and the crowd looked like 10,000 people. Same thing is happening with her fake crowds at her speeches. This is the way Democrats win elections, by cheating." So let's start with Admiral Gibbs.
Yeah, so I actually think the question of whether or not these AI photos exist or don't exist is really a very dishonest misdirect by the left, right? They're trying to focus on what Trump said with his AI photos, when the reality is that things have gotten so bad that it's believable that these AI photos exist. Just this week, Stephen Colbert was interviewing a head honcho person from CNN, and he said, "Oh, so y'all present the truth and fact or whatever, as the news," and the whole crowd started laughing. He's like, "Oh, I haven't even got to the punchline yet." And the reason for this is everybody knows that the dishonest Dems are sitting out here spreading lies the whole time at a record rate. Just this week, I saw Biden. Just this week, literally talking about Charlottesville again. They're willing to spread lies, they're willing to lie. And so when Trump says something outlandish to make a point like the AI generation thing, it makes sense to Republicans, and it's not even really a lie. It's about as much of a lie as the or dishonesty from the Repubs as what Tim Walz and Laughing Kamala are doing with calling JD Vance weird. That's exactly what this is. This is Trump calling Kamala weird. He's saying nobody likes you. All you do is laugh. You had to make up fake photos for people to get there. And let's just be honest. If you compare the rallies, Trump rallies massive. They're like sporting events. 55,000 people go to them. It's crazy. Sell out stadiums. They have lines around the corner wanting to see him. Kamala, there's like 20 people and Reverend Al Sharpton out there with a dog sitting there yelling, "Hey, I'm happy for you, Kamala. You're doing great." And of course, some people may or may not have to do AI photos to get this out here. But the point is, it's just pure dishonesty from the Dems for so long that Republicans are sick of it, that we're willing to believe, even mockingly, that these AI photos exist because Democrats are liars. And really, that's the bottom line.
Right. Let's go to Lactoid.
Yeah, I actually agree with a lot of what Gibbs said. There are a few disagreements, but we'll elaborate on that in a second. But I've been sort of recently, I think, having my eyes opened, and I've been pretty active on Twitter about it, as to just how dishonest Dems are being lately, for a lot of reasons. And there is manipulation occurring that the Kamala campaign is doing. But this is not one of them. The AI accusations appear to stem from several parody accounts that used AI to generate a crowd and then claim that it was Kamala's crowd, when in reality it was just a fake AI generated parody meme. And just like we have politicians who oftentimes aren't experts in this stuff, they fall for things, right? I mean, I think it was Kinzinger, who said that Sam Hyde was the ghost of Kiev and was shooting down like Russian planes. And he posted that, and this is the most anti-Trump guy there is. He posted that on Twitter, talking about Samuel Heidel or something. I don't know. I think that this is a case of, I think, Donald Trump falling for a parody. And I think the clear thing to do here is to apologize and to acknowledge, hey, this appeared to be fake, or this fake picture appeared to be from from Kamala's campaign, but in reality, it's not. Sorry about that. I think that would probably be the best move. But in terms of there being a tremendous amount of dishonesty in other areas from the left, I think Gibbs is absolutely spot on.
Desperado.
Well, I don't have to say much about me hating both parties, and only hating one a little bit more than the other, but it's still hating them vehemently. And I have no love for Kamala. I have no love for Biden. I have no love for Trump, period. But what I will say, is somebody that has done hours and hours and hours of video editing and has also worked with AI models that deal with video and pictures, there's no way that this could have been done. Like, there's no way that these could have been AI generated. So if Trump would have said it feels like, or it looks like it was AI generated, that'd have been one thing. But to say definitively that it was AI generated is just false.
Thank you. Tiberius.
Yeah, there's a long story here, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. The simple thing here to say is that there are video and photos out there that are being circulated that are faked. But here's the key point: who faked them and why? That's the real kicker here. Now, I had a long list of details here that I actually wrote out for you guys. Unfortunately, they're on my desk at home. But I actually went down and I tried to research, where the original photos were, where'd they come from, who had them, that kind of stuff. And here's the bottom line: every single reference photo that I have seen, I cannot find from the Kamala Harris campaign or any associated, whether it be her personal accounts, whether it be her campaign accounts, whether it be from the Democratic Party. I can't find those photos. Now, they may have been taken down. I cannot verify that. You guys can look into that yourselves, and you can believe all you want, because that's largely what we're going to do anyway. But what I can say is that most of the photos and videos originate from a particular person that I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Those photos started circulating on the 10th, and we've been going from there. Those photos, at least a number of them, clearly are faked. You can literally look at the engine housing on the side of Air Force Two, and you can see that all of that crowd is fake because there's one person in the reflection of the engine housing. Like, that photo is absolutely faked. But who faked it and why? Can't tell you. That's going to have to leave up to your own bias, which we'll probably all just disagree on who the fuck that is anyway. But at least I tried to do my homework on this one, so I'm going to pass it off to Doghouse.
Right, Doghouse. What do you think?
Yeah, so some of the let me get something pulled over. Yeah, so to basically Gibbs and Lactoid point about it being dishonest stems, it's actually pretty laughable, because it's kind of admitting in a implicit way that they were tricked by the dishonest stems. I can tell you it takes literally 2 seconds to disprove these images. You can go to look at TikTok, you can go to YouTube. To say that you were tricked, I was tricked into these photos, is laughable. One of the things that Gibbs was doing was he was trying to pivot away to looking at Charlottesville, Colbert, Tim Walz, JD Vance being weird. trying to pivot away from this. One thing I've seen a lot from the conservative movement is they are trying to pivot away from them initially believing this and saying that the crowd is artificially hyped. That is a quote that I've used from someone that I've engaged with previously. And a lot of what conservatives are doing now are trying to backtrack from that. And their backtrack is saying that there are dishonest Dems. That's why we believe this photo. No one should have sat there and said, again, if you want to look at it, the question then to all my conservative fellows on the panel would be, okay, are we willing to acknowledge then, by evidence of looking at the actual video and things like that, that it is fairly large? However you want to take that. If you want to sit there and say that it was 5,000, go for it. But if you look at the video evidence, if you look at all the other evidence, you can clearly tell that rally was actually a fairly large attendance. There's a TikTok video that I found that it is a fairly large attendance. And one thing we're seeing time after time and time after again is we're seeing conservatives try to find every excuse that they can to justify why Kamala has a large crowd. Initially, it was because Megan Thee Stallion. Next, it was Bon Iverson or whoever it was. And they were claiming that it was a number one selling artist. Guess what? He never had a number one Billboard title. Now it's a fake image. Oh, but don't forget, they also sat there and said that it was a curtain that was blocked down. That's why that she didn't have a large crowd. So it's constant moving of the goalposts to try to figure out a way to justify how Trump has a bigger crowd size. And so, yeah, they're just trying to pivot away because they got caught in a lie.
All right. Well, is this a massive case of got him, or is this some gaslighting going on to try to downplay the heat behind the Kamala Harris campaign? Go ahead and open up the conversation.
I want to just to clarify, there's two different sets of photos and videos that are happening. There is the real ones of the crowd, right, that was there, and then there are fake ones. Now, what Ty said appears to be accurate, which is that all the fake ones didn't come from Kamala's campaign. They were made by these various parody accounts. So when conservatives look at these photos, it is true that there are faked AI photos. The problem is none of those faked AI photos are coming from Kamala's campaign, at least that we know of. They appear to be coming from parody accounts, trolls, people who are just trying to shit stir. The real photos of the campaign, my understanding, or the real photos of the event, have been shared by Kamala's campaign. When I say that Donald Trump was tricked, I don't mean that he was tricked by Kamala. I mean that he was tricked by one of these parody accounts or one of these trolls that was posting AI images claiming that Kamala claimed this was her crowd, and then he was tricked. And I think that that's why I said I think he should apologize for it.
Also, I want to say no one. I don't know about Lactoid. I'm not claiming anybody got tricked. Fuck all that. I'm not taking that cope. Let me tell you something here. The reason why we're sitting here and pivoting, as he would say, is because we're sitting here telling you all the facts. We've been sitting here saying for the last 4.5 years that y'all some lying sons of bitches. That's what we've been saying. Y'all go outside and tell us, oh, John, it's doing great. Well, everybody's got to work 3 jobs. No wonder we've got more jobs created. Nobody can buy milk because it's 6. Hold on, Puto. Let me finish. Let me finish here. We are going to be talking. I'm going to talk about the issue.
I know you want to pivot away from the topic.
I know that you want to stop me from talking. I know you want to stop me from talking. But yeah, so okay, we go outside. Milk is $6 a gallon. It's outrageous.
Was there milk at the hanger? Can somebody tell me that?
Hey, yeah, well, maybe drink some milk. It'll be all right, and maybe you'll get some bigger bones, and you won't be such a much of a bitch.
Soy milk too?
I'm trying to talk. I mean, listen. Are you letting me talk? You keep being a big bitch. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you open up wide. I'll put one in there for you. Anyway, listen. So, yeah, but it'll be the first meat this guy's ever had in his life. Dear Lord. Anyway, secondly, we all been sitting here been lied to about the economy outright for years. Years we've been lied to. We lied about the border. We've been. Can I talk? Or are you going to keep being
Biden's cognitive ability, right? More lies.
Yeah, exactly. That's another one. Lie about the cognitive ability.
What's going on?
Holy Christ, it's all related, bro. I know this is a hard concept for you, that there might be other outlying issues that affect where one issue happens now, and they kind of go on, it's an interconnecting web. It's not just A plus B equals C. I know this. If you would let me finish, because you're afraid of the conservative telling you the truth, I understand. You gotta let me finish here, Papa.
Okay,
I'll let you talk. Yeah, thank you. It's not even finished up. I barely got started. I've been interrupted every 5 seconds. Anyway, so we got the milk. We've sitting here been lied to about Biden's cognitive abilities. Just this week, fucking Action Man, of all people, literally busted a Kamala Harris person trying to give him between 4 and 20K, depending on which part of the clip you watch, to start promoting Biden Harris on this shit and lying, even though he's a known, like, red pill degenerate kind of guy. Crazy stuff. That was wild. And it was just like on Monkey App. Well, I can't believe the recruiting on Monkey App seems like a great strategy to win the election there. But, more dishonesty. We had another streamer come out and say, oh, they're signing NDAs, but she's not a liberal. We just are seeing them doing all sorts of dishonest tactics. And so whenever we sit here and go, oh, hey, this guy's a couch fucker, and we hear that from the Dems for weeks, this guy's fucking couches. Oh, yeah, bro, he's a couch fucker. And they're like, it's in his book. Never in his book. They're like, yeah, but he's a couch fucker. Every minute I see couch fucker, whatever, out of Tim Wall's mouth. And we sit here and we go, oh, wow, these guys are being dishonest. Oh, wow, maybe these AI could have been a real thing. Seems like something the Dems would do. No one's saying they got tricked. We're like, yeah, they're parodies. Yeah, they're sitting here putting the AI. Wouldn't it be funny if they're sitting there doing AI crowds because she's only getting 500 people and they're sitting here reporting like it's the second coming of Christ, just like they were sitting there trying to tell us they're a peaceful protest as the fire burns behind them of this guy's like lifelong business. It's all the same kind of shit out of you, and it's not pivoting. It's just sitting here. You're trying to put words in our mouth, just like y'all did with Charlottesville, and just like y'all did with fucking the insurrection bullshit. Whenever they actually supported a real insurrection, and then they're gonna sit here and be dishonest again and be like, yeah, they're so stupid. They're saying it's AI. Yeah, okay, buddy. Dishonest Dems for the win here. In fact, I told my driver this week, don't be a DD because everybody's gonna get confused with designated driver and dishonest Dem. And I'd rather have a drunk driver than have a fucking dishonest Dem as a driver. Dear Lord.
Doghouse.
Didn't y'all admit to Trump like lying about it being a real crowd? So wouldn't he be dishonest by that virtue?
What? No.
What? Yeah. I know it's hard to believe. Didn't Trump sit there and lie about it being a fake crowd? Did he lie about that?
No, he just said it was exaggerated. It was bullshit. There's 10 people
okay.
there.
There's 10 people there, Gibbs?
Yeah, 10 people.
We don't know if he lied or if he was tricked. He probably was tricked.
I'm going with lie. I'm not going with lie. I'm going with
statement.
He was just
by
he was
very
just
definition to be a dishonest.
Yeah, I mean when you
right?
compare 5,000 people to 55,000 people, when Trump is just so confused by having so many people that when he sees a big crowd, he associates 50,000 with 5,000. So obviously, like the 40 or 50 people there probably only look like 40 or 50 compared to Trump's actual crowds.
So, Gibbs, you've never seen the TikTok videos? You haven't watched any of the actual live streams?
Of what? Kamala?
Of the hangar, the actual campaign rally at the hangar. Have you seen any?
Yeah, where there was like 20 people there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and share this in chat then for everybody here.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it. It was amazing. It was really just a massive crowd. It looked like maybe like Texas A&M Kingsville had a football game. It was very impressive.
I'll let you go ahead and watch that. Go.
I mean, whenever high school football crowds are big crowds, that's big, guys. Big time. Kamala's famous. She's popular. She got 300 people and a dog at a rally.
All right, look.
I guess Trump lied by technicality.
Let me in on this for a second. All right, so when it comes to dishonesty, I'm not going to remotely say that either side is not dishonest. We've seen this during the campaign throughout all this year, whether it be a number of Biden rallies that we saw earlier in the year, whether it be a number of Trump rallies. Literally, you'll have people say, "Oh, thank you for having this big crowd," and then the camera will literally pan to the left or to the right, and there's empty bleachers, and that's in both campaigns that have done this shit. And if I need to provide source materials, I will. But let's be real. Both sides are fucking liars. We can talk about which one's the bigger liars. I don't really give a shit at that point. The real part here is who is actually representing what you want. If Gibbs is going 100% in with Republicans, no matter what happens, that's fine. Kudos to Doghouse and kudos to Lactoid for being Republicans, but also saying, hey, there's definitely a delineation between when somebody goes down the rabbit hole and when actually there's some real bullshit going on. Love you both. Thank you very much.
And the chat wants to know what the couch cushions were made out of. Was it corduroy or satin?
I'm pretty sure it was velvet or pleather.
I'm hoping it was velvet. Yeah.
I think it was made out of Trumpy bears.
Did you guys see the Republican response?
I think he knew he had to clean up afterwards, so a pleather is the
It was actually lubricated by liberal leftist tears, specifically Doghouse shows.
One of the things that I saw was in response to that, to the cushion meme, like in direct response, there was like a couple influencers that started like pushing the meme that Tim Walz chugs horse cum, and that's been like on a couple accounts on Twitter. And that I think is very much in line with the whole couch thing too. Like that's a very good response, I think. And the problem is, along with the couch thing, there are some people who actually believe it, and I think that's evidence that maybe we should be more careful when spreading those kind of jokes, because holy shit.
And again, I go back to where I go back to what I said previously that I think is really, really interesting to me is that what I have noticed from the Trump campaign that I have criticized over and over and over again, and I'm trying not to go too far away from this, hanger and the topic of the AI picture, but it's a bigger issue, which is every time there's a Kamala rally, there is some kind of an issue that they want to chop it up to because Trump has to have the bigger crowd size. It's a crowd size measuring contest. They don't want to attack anything of substance. They want to attack Kamala's cackling. They want to talk about Tim Walz's service record. They want to attack everything else but the actual challenges at hand. Clearly as day, Kamala is popular. Whether you want to believe it or not, Kamala is popular. Does that mean that you should go and vote for her? Not off of popularity alone. You should go and vote off of her policies. But what I'm saying is this denialism of saying, oh, well, it's an AI photo, when clearly it was not. That's just another way of trying to deflect from the fact that Kamala is popular. I hate to, be that one conservative. It's like, oh, hey, guys, but it's the truth. And you have to accept it. That's the only way you're going to win this campaign, is to accept that fact. And to sit there and send out AI-generated photos, if it is, which I don't even know if it's being 100% confirmed or not, but either way, sitting there saying that it's Don or Bon Iverson or whatever that brought everybody there, or Megan Thee Stallion, or the curtains, or the paid actors. Oh, I've heard that one. The paid actors. Come on, man. What is it Joe Biden says? Come on, man. It's the same thing.
I want to point out that they did the photo itself did have like some lighting and contrast manipulation that occurred to it, to the point where like several recognized AI detection tools, specifically ISITAI, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, ISITAI, this is according to Snopes, put it at only a 58% chance that it's not AI. So
it's originally from the Kamala campaign, according to Stokes.
So a 42%, like if you have an AI detection tool saying that it's 42% likely that it's an AI, I mean, and I'm looking at the photo, by adjusting the contrast and everything, the lighting, it kind of does look like AI generated, just by the way that they've edited it. And I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying, like, again, when you have like Snopes reporting that they ran it through an AI detection test and it only came up with 58%.
And it's from Kamala, not a parody thing. That's a key part of that.
No, I want to hit on this too, because I'm glad that our buddy Gibbs over here showed us a picture of that AI tool. I actually went to that website, and that AI detection tool literally lays out that this app is a proof of concept demonstration. It was created in October 2022. Furthermore, the intended scope of this tool is artistic images. That is to say, it's not a deep fake photo detector, and general computer imagery may throw it off, webcams, screenshots, etc. In general, this tool can only serve as one of many potential indicators that an image was AI generated. Image scoring is very probabilistic, artificial, 90% or higher, can be referred to as human expert for further investigation if needed. So in other words, even these AI detectors, you have to have a certain thing, because even the littlest things, like they said, webcams or screenshots can throw it off. So depending on what scopes ran it through.
I get that. Again, I'm not the one. I'm not saying that it's fake. What I'm saying is that the question is, why would somebody believe that it's fake? And I'm looking at the photo, and on first glance, like if this was just shown to me, I would say this is fake. And then you run it through an AI detection tool, and it's not super clear whether it's fake or not. Now, the research that a lot of these organizations have done into it, I think, has been relatively conclusive that it is real, right? And then they backed it up with video, like they backed it up with other things, and it definitely appears to be real. But like, if I'm a first impression looking at this shit, I don't know. I'm not. If someone's tricked by that, I'm not going to be. And especially they're tricked by some of the other AI photos that are being generated by the trolls and other like parody accounts. I don't know like how much I'm going to blame them for being dishonest, as opposed to they themselves were tricked.
Yeah, so I want to hit on this too, because this is
Desperado's been trying to
hold on a second. what I was going to say is that there are ways to doctor images like that are real images in order to get like the maximum like color and effect that you want inside of them. So when you're taking a picture like this and you're like taking a picture from inside the hangar and the crowd looks dark and the plane looks like really bright, and you're trying to get a good contrast between the two of you can take two copies of the same photo, and you can remove the background with the people in it and then put a particular contrast specifically on the people there and put it over the top of that image again so that you can contrast it against the back image of like the plane at the same time, so your plane isn't like super bright in the background. Now, what this does is that it can make it look like it's fake, but it's not fake. It's literally just somebody trying to maximize the best viewability of the hangar and the plane by putting two images on top of each other and removing the background on one of them in order to get the right color scheme.
Yeah, and the other thing that really, like, again, it's not so much the believing. I think this is another kind of like pivot away from the main topic at hand. There were several people who tweeted this photo out, and it's that tweet or the description of that is the falsity, right? It goes back to what Trump said, which Trump was saying that, this is a fake crowd or whatever like that, or Kamala has to fake crowds to, do this and that. It's that particular claim that is the dishonesty part of this. And the fact is a lot of what I had seen was a lot of people, or what seemed, I believe, they're conservatives, sit there, believe the photo, make a comment on it, believing that Kamala's crowds are fake. And then when you sit there and you nail them down on it, they either pivot or they'll sit there and say that I was just pointing out a fact. But they don't ever want to acknowledge the fact that that crowd was large, which is why I try to sit there and even with Gibbs and say, hey, Gibbs, was that crowd was large? I have multiple videos of seeing that crowd. And yet Gibbs sits here and wants to say that it's 10 people. It's absurd.
Yeah, bro, it was a high school football game size crowd. Wow, that's large. I mean, I like whenever we're comparing like what the AP press has reported on number sizes. Now, I'm not going to bash Kamala for having a smaller average crowd. This is not my take here. I'm not going to bash her for having a smaller average crowd than Trump when Trump is averaging 55,000 per the AP press.
He said 100,000. So was it 100,000 or 50,000?
I'm not quoting 100 Trump. I'm quoting
okay,
AP
so
press.
Being dishonest in that too.
Okay,
right?
cool. So he's done 100,000 person stadiums as well. I said his average size. Now if he's talking about certain stadium shows. Let's not take him out of context here. I know you're trying to pretend like you're. I know you're trying to pretend to be a conservative. Yeah, I'm sure there has. I don't know if he said it. Maybe. Who knows? That's not the point I'm making. But whatever, he's got 55,000 people on average according to the Associated Press. And then I look over and Kamala's got like what's the size of maybe a small high school football team's fan base out there. Yeah, I would say it's small as fuck, and it's not great. So whenever I'll tell you another dishonest tactic. This is almost what I think they did on purpose. Someone brought this up in my chat, and I think it's actually a good point. They over here, they said, hey, we're going to put a photo out here that looks fake. People are going to say it's fake. They're going to run through the AI detectors as fake. And then when someone calls it fake, they're going to go, oh, look at the jackasses. They're over here. So that's almost dishonest in and of itself whenever they're sitting here putting out a fake photo so they can turn around and say, gotcha or something. It's just clear dishonesty from start to finish.
Are you making the claim that Dims put this out on purpose?
Maybe not. Maybe go fuck yourself.
But you just made the very strong claim that it was. See, here we go. Backtracking. This is exactly what happens. Gibbs over here made it.
I didn't backtrack anything. I just brought up a point.
You said maybe. That's a pretty big backtrack.
Maybe.
So you don't stand for what you just said?
I also said maybe not. Maybe go fuck yourself. I mean, what you want? Look at this guy only taking part of what I said. Here we go. Taking shit out of context.
I'm pretty sure Tiberius wants in here.
It's a possibility.
Try Tiberius.
I do. I love you both, and this is some great memes. Look, I'll split some hairs here, and I'll even defend some Republicans on this one. Like, there's definitely images that are out there, and Trump retweeted one of them, or not retweeted, basically copy-pasted one, right? And he's like, hey, look, this image is clearly fake. And if you look at it, yeah, it's totally fake. The question is, and this is where I kind of want, my political representatives to actually do some fucking homework. When was this photo posted? From originally where? And like, this is the part where it's like, yeah, okay, with Lactoid's take, was he tricked? Okay, sure. If he was or not is kind of irrelevant. It's by who? And that's actually the more relevant point, because what happens if the right is gaslighting itself? What happens if the left is gaslighting the right? Like, there's different ethical and moral considerations to get here. And where, I'll just put it this way. Gibbs, I'm with you when it's like, hey, look, you know what? The Dems fucking lie. They lie out their ass. 100% they fucking do. but it's also, can we do our fucking homework to make sure that this is the time that they're lying? Because when they're not, and it's literally our own side doing it to ourselves, we look like the biggest jackasses on the planet.
And can we acknowledge too the fact that like whether or not this is fake does not take away from the fact of that it is a real like crowd. Like I think that's the biggest issue. Whether you want to say it's not real per se because of the fact that it's an AI image, right? The fact of whether or not it was or wasn't real, like even if the Dims put it out and it was an AI, like we're gonna get the Dims. That's about the size of what that crowd was from that angle. So like that's the whole thing is like to me, does it really
From that
matter at the
angle.
end of the day? If it was even yes, from that angle, you can go look it up.
Yeah,
on
I-
From that angle.
this
Big
is-
crowd from that angle.
This is something that I'm gonna also, I guess, disagree with on Gibbs. I think it's very plausible the crowd was big. I think it's very plausible that you had a very large crowd. There's no
Very
shortage.
large. Define very large.
Whatever they said it was, it would.
Okay.
I mean, seriously, right? Like, there's no shortage of crazy people in this country. We're talking about Minneapolis here, right? Like, this is the heart of like the BLM riots where they burned down an entire police precinct. Are we really surprised that there's all these like libcucks that live in that? No, of course not. Of course they live in this area,
I thought this
right?
was Detroit.
I thought this was
Detroit
Minneapolis.
image?
Is this Detroit?
No, I'm pretty sure this
Detroit. It was
is
Detroit.
it's
100%
the Detroit image.
Detroit.
That's actually fake because there's not even that many people that still live in Detroit. It's just the epitome of democratic policies during the state, a city.
I mean, if it's Detroit, I mean, same thing goes, right? I mean, Detroit's not going to be that far off from Minneapolis when it comes to percentage of crazy people living there. But I mean, still, like it seems rational to me that she could draw a crowd that size. I mean, look, she's going to get a lot of the vote. It's going to be a close election either way. So of course, people are going to show up. It's not unreasonable to believe that. Are the people there bad? Like, I condemn the people there, sure, whatever, but like, they probably were there.
I'm gonna motion for topic 2.
You did this, Ty. Topics brought to you by Tiberius D.
No,
Wait, can we
just
just talk about like other manipulation that like the Dems actually did? Did you guys hear about?
That's what we should be talking about.
Did you guys hear about the search results that Kamala's campaign? They were literally editing the search results and saying,
we're gonna go here.
"Yeah, we're going to go to this."
Shamers.
Well, they were literally
Let's
editing
do
the
it.
search results where they were saying like AP News, Reuters, and shit. And by the way, Trump campaign doesn't do this, right? Apparently, some other dishonest campaigns did this, but Trump never did this. And you have AP News and Reuters like put it like saying that Reuters. The Kamala's campaign was saying that Reuters was saying these positive things about Kamala, but those headlines were false. The headlines were false, and people were looking at those Google ads I think very reasonably, having a risk there of believing that Reuters was endorsing Kamala, or that Kamala's headlines were more favorable than they actually were, because the Kamala campaign was the one editing the headlines. This is a scandal. Honestly, this is a scandal. And when now you have like some news agencies saying, well, she didn't do anything wrong. It's like, well, hold on a minute. If Trump did this, really, you would say there would be nothing wrong? I think there's something wrong about this, right?
I mean, you're also not even talking about the paying of streamers and like this push by them, like especially like with like guys that aren't even political streamers. They're paying them to do this. The NDAs, this stuff that's coming out recently about all this looks very bad. It's all very dishonest. I don't know how we can sit here and pretend like
and the selective deleting of sentences, right? Do you see that? Where Kamala reposted something from Trump's Truth Social, leaving out the last sentence that provided essential context. Left it out. The entire paragraph, except for that last sentence. Incredible.
And it's Tiberius, if you're asking me about why it's dishonest, I'll tell you why it's dishonest. So do you know who Action Man is? He's the one who like broke this story, which is, to me, maybe the funniest thing of all. Part of this. This is how I know that something happened and we switched parallel universes. Because if Action Man's breaking the story, we've gone to hell. Like this guy, Action Man, if you don't know who he is basically a DJ streamer, punches holes in walls, breaks computers, talks to like e-girls, and does like monkey app on Kick. And literally, what happened was he's on the monkey app and he got someone dressed in like full Kamal gear, campaign stuff on the background, and she offered him to pay him like between $4,000 and $20,000. When he like went along with it, she actually sent him like $4,000 on a Cash App and then tried to send him an NDA to get him not tell how he does it. And Action Man's like not a political content creator. He's like a red pill, like maybe adjacent, like DGen guy. So like And so, which is really funny. And then after he put that out there, put the clips out there, it got picked up by Drama Alert. And then like 3 other streamers have come out and said, "Oh, we told them no," and they kind of like came after us about it. It's like a whole developing news story that's like starting to come out over the last week and a half or 2 weeks or so.
I might need a clarifier here, but like here's the part where I'm a little lost, and then maybe there's a qualifier here that changes my mind. So like you're like ultra McCapitalist over here, right? And when the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, if they were to reach out to me or you,
yeah, but
say,
I wouldn't take a bounty on votes, which is what they were offering him basically.
Let Ty finish his
bounty
statement,
on
though.
votes?
Yeah, that's. So they're basically saying, you'll have surpluses if you could prove in whatever areas you say that there's like an uptick in voting in your areas that you're suggesting, basically. So they were basically saying per vote you'll get us like a cut, is what the implication was that you could bring to the table.
Depending on how explicit that is, that could be very illegal.
Yeah, extremely illegal. It was like a straight up almost illegal offer. And then like at the end they're like, "Oh, here's the NDAs for this conversation and for the other stuff." He's like, "Too bad. I've been live streaming the whole time."
Yeah, like okay, that's where I'm a little confused. But I mean, if that's the case, the problem is that like I'd have to defer to Lactoid probably on this one, but that sounds like a blatant violation of campaign finance law.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's the point.
Right.
Well, I would have to see the
fine.
video before I actually come to any kind of conclusion like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I went through
all over his page. It's been a thing.
I'm gonna publicly say this, okay? Because I think it's super important. I will say, Lactoid, I'll say it publicly because I didn't do it on my stream, that the article is extremely confusing from my perspective. It was initially until I reread it and I was like, okay, now I see where you were coming from. Because the way they lay it out, they break it out in bullet points, make it sound as if it was. They were not confirming whether or not it was with the thing. The ads say they are sponsored, but it's not immediately clear that the text company's real news links. Real news links is written by the campaigns and not by the media publication. So the way they laid that out made it sound as if that was a fact, but I see what they're saying is it matters because it's not immediately clear. So it took me a second to have to read through it again. I was like, okay, I see what they're saying. It was just poorly written. But the important part of that, which I think was not addressed and which I do kind of want to address, which you said earlier about the Trump campaign not running them. They're not running them currently, but there's a lot of vagueness with this that I really wish there's more. I think this warrants definitely some more responses from people and maybe a little bit more, maybe even possibly from Google, because this part right here, where it says, according to Google's Ad Transparency Center, the Trump campaign isn't running these types of ads, but this technique has been used by campaigns before. And that part right there, I think, is super important.
Yeah, by other campaigns, I think it says, right?
Yeah, no, it does say other. It just says by campaigns before, and that part is where it's kind of. Here, I'll link it to the chat, by the way, so everybody can see what we're talking about.
Look, like if it turns like, and the way that's worded, I don't think Trump did. Otherwise, they would specify that, hey, Trump's not doing this, but campaigns have, like political campaigns. If it turns out that in the past Trump did do this, then I would be condemning that too, right? The idea, because Facebook bans this practice, by the way, because it's pretty direct misinformation. But Google doesn't for some strange reason. It's typically done by commercial interests, companies trying to make their product look better than it actually is in order to sell, which I think that's kind of fucked up anyway as well. But when it comes to when we're doing it like politically speaking, the fact that the campaign would do that, like that's worthy of criticism, right? In my opinion, I think that should be called out. And yeah, I appreciate, by the way, that you took a look at that and that you did kind of realize what I was getting at, which was the article is very clear. Kamala's campaign did do this. They manipulated the headlines, and the viewers, they might not know that the Kamala campaign did that, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, I think more. I'll say this, and I'll let other people have the floor. I think for me, there's a lot of smoke here. I would say that there may be even a little bit of fire. But to me, I need more. I think for me, that's where I'm at with this, is that I'm not going to say conclusively one way or the other, but I need more to really kind of dig into this. It does seem like other campaigns have used it before. I'm not entirely sold on this yet. Maybe more information will come out. I think this is okay. This is an okay critique to assume that if they are doing this, it is misleading. I think there's a couple of ways to look at this, though, in a way where you could say that if they are editing, say, the title and the description, and it's their summary and it's labeled as sponsored, there could be an argument where it is, I guess, in some ways ethical because
they look like headlines, though, right? That's the problem.
I know,
they're very
I know.
clearly set to look like headlines.
Yeah, so I'm willing to sit there and say that I'm moved more towards the middle after realizing my mistake from earlier, because I thought it was saying it was something else, which was like, oh, okay. But yeah, like this point here is definitely like smoke, but no fire.
So I mean, I think that there is a lot of smoke, and I think that there is fire, given that it's been confirmed that the Kamala campaign was doing this. But this is just one example in the past several days in which we're seeing like almost a flurry of just dishonest tactics being brought out, right? Like, I'm curious, like, what do you think about the fact that, you know, you look at the Trump post from his True Social in which he says, you know, my conversation with Elon was heard by a record audience, et cetera, et cetera. My voice was in certain areas somewhat different and strange. Therefore, we have put out an actual and perfect recording of the conversation. Enjoy. Basically saying, hey, here's the recording of the conversation to prove that I wasn't slurring my words. Kamala's campaign on Twitter took that paragraph, removed the last sentence in which he references that the fact that there is a better recording that doesn't have these problems, and says that he blames his confused, slur-filled disaster on the complexity of modern-day equipment, which is just like completely pulls the truth out of what Trump was saying there. And literally, it's like whited out. They just edited it without the last sentence, and they posted it, and they said that he was slurring still, despite the fact that he has this other recording where he's not slurring. Yeah. That's fucked.
Wait a second, Lacto. You're trying to tell me he wasn't doing an impression of Francis?
I don't think so. What was happening is it was called slushing. It's an audio thing that occurs when your mic peaks on certain like F sounds and S sounds, and it distorts it, and so it sounds like you're shh, and when you're shh, and it sounds awful. And you know, shame on Trump, by the way. I'll criticize him for this. You're a billionaire and you can't afford a better mic. That's in of itself fucking disturbing, right? You have a lot of money. What the fuck? No excuse for that, right? That's what he should be being criticized about.
I'm not gonna lie, like listening to the audio, it sounded like he had like taken like the headset that you get with the phone and literally put it in your ear with a little thing that hangs down that you speak into. That's what it sounded like. I was like, "Are you serious?"
He had his phone on.
Serious?
He had his phone in front of him on speakerphone. It was like, bro, like what the fuck? It wasn't even like a sound controlled room.
So let me just hit this real quick. I know we're kind of completely off the main topic and just getting into general dishonesty. But we're either migrated enough to where we need to move to topic 2, or we need to get Sprout into this. So Lethe, what do you want? What's your call?
Oh, you go ahead and do your thing. We can move on to the next topic whenever you're ready. We got at least 10 more minutes for this one if you want to.
Well, I was going to say, Sprout just got here, so if we want to at least throw him a bone and let him get in here, like that'd be kind of appropriate.
I mean,
he's a man. He can speak for himself.
Come on, Sprout.
You know what? These are these lefties. They need people that pretend to be conservatives like Tiberius to stand up for them because they can't do it themselves.
At least tell me you're wearing a black Air
certainly do it myself. I just didn't see a point in ripping into the conversation. The conversation was fairly calm. There was not any like super major points of disagreement, so there was no reason for me to interrupt.
Thank you, Agent.
Tell him.
All you gotta say, Lactoid. You're right about everything. I agree with Lactoid 100%.
That's not what I said.
We can move on to the next topic. That's all I gotta hear.
Lactoid is doing what the media does. Okay, it's fake. He's lying. And you know what I think about Kamala? I call her Hyena Harris. Okay,
that's a good name.
She's just a cat. She's just a little cat.
That's a great name.
Okay.
Wow. Did Trump
you
not come up with that yet?
She's not going to hurt you.
Oh, because dog names is racist.
But keep listening to the media. Keep listening to them. Ask my friends. They all know they're lying to you. Okay. We need to win this election. We need to take back America and make America great again.
I am using that.
By the way, I stole Hyena Harris from my friend. She's actually in chat, so props to Joy. But I stole Hyena Harris from her.
Congratulations, you are now twice as conservative as Tiberius now, Sprout. I trust you more as conservative than him.
Maybe I can we can table what I'm really curious about and that I really want to hit on too is like again what I said earlier about like all of these certain names and the mudslinging and everything else, and not really focusing on what, in my opinion, would be like policies and stuff. I feel like right
The
now,
names, bro. They've been calling Trump a rapist. Like I don't want to sit here and be like, what's worse, Hyena Harris or rapist Trump?
That's not what I'm saying. You want to call her names, go all ahead. But
I am.
She's
terrible.
You're throwing a dart at the wall and you're missing is what I'm saying.
Well, I don't.
These names are hitting. That was a good one.
Okay, Hyena Harris is great, but I don't disagree. I'm a policy bug too. I want to see policy debates. The problem is, we're less than 3 months away from the election, and Kamala Harris hasn't released a campaign platform yet. We don't know what her policy is. She hasn't talked about her policy, and she refuses to do interviews to where we might get some idea about what her policy is intentionally, because the goal right now is to be as inoffensive as possible, to not put forward anything that can be attacked. And I think that's, like, first of all, cowardly. But second of all, how the fuck do we even have a policy conversation if we don't know what her policy is because she won't fucking release one?
Well, we know what her policy is. We just know it's so absolute. We know it's so absolute trash that her numbers in the Democratic nomination in the Democratic primary last year were absolute garbage. Okay, there was no way she was going to win the Democratic nomination. As a matter of fact, Biden got pushback for choosing Kamala as his VP. But now all the Democrats are lining up behind her, saying that she's going to be the next best president. Get the fuck out of here! You did it 1 or 4 years ago.
Okay, no, I'm glad we're going to this. So let's do it. Ty, if you're okay with it, because this is a point that I know that Ty knows that I've been getting into. Like, I've been the one person that's been like this is the problem, is I've been like going to bat for Kamala way more than I would actually love to, okay? But fuck it, I'm going to bat for Kamala.
Don't!
We kick Doghouse before he bats for Kamala.
Shocker, the lefty is going back for Kamala again.
Yeah, I'm a lefty. Hey, you know what? I love it. Call me a lefty because it makes me feel more centrist.
That's even worse.
If you go to Meet Kamala's website, she kind of, now depend. I know how people go with this all the time. They're like, oh, well, it's not. No, because what's going to be said is it's not in bullet points and it's vague. Great, I can point to all of Trump's bullet point policies that are even more vague. But here's what it does say. It says in the U.S. Senate, she led on legislation to raise wages, which she has mimicked during her speeches, by the way, bring down costs for American families on housing, healthcare, childcare. Healthcare she has brought up before as Medicare for All. She has done that in her speeches as well during her tour. Childcare, college, and more. It talks about her budget. She fought for critical causes like criminal justice reform, climate action, infrastructure investments, and election security. Not only that, we can also then look at her previous policies. But if that's not good enough, Donald Trump himself believes that Kamala has policies, and I linked it in chat where Donald Trump at one of his rallies points to the screen and says, hey, look at all of Kamala's policies, and literally lays them out bullet for bullet for bullet for bullet point. And I think that that's so crazy to me because I've also seen the exact same conservatives go in about Kamala not having a policy and then almost immediately thereafter talk about how, oh, the assault weapon ban, oh, the blocking fracking, all these other things. And it's like, wait, you just said literally 5 minutes ago.
Well, no, but we have history of her practice, right? Which is what I'd rather go off of which is what I would rather base my opinion off of than whatever they say they're going to do. I'm not stupid. I understand that politicians are going to lie to try to become president. They're going to say some things that they don't mean, that they're not actually going to complete in office. It's just a matter of fact at this point. I think we're too far to have that be reversed. But to look at Kamala's history in government, it's tragic. There's not been a position that she was good at. There's not been a position where she's had positive ratings. She's had negative ratings in every single position she's had. And you're telling me that she's going to be the next best president? Like, get the fuck out of here.
Wait, hold on. So
get back on your meds.
Wait, this is, hold on. Sprout's right in this. Like, we can look at her history and I hear what you're saying, where it's like, well, you know, they're saying that she's a policy, but at the same time, they're not saying that she's a policy. She doesn't have an official policy. She has a history that you can attack, and we can sort of glean, right? We can glean what her policy might be, right? And conservatives are attacking that, I think, justly, because that's all conservatives have to go off of, right? Which is her history and kind of what she's alluded to. But here's the problem. As of very recently, Dems kind of have a policy of switching things at the last minute. And until an actual official policy comes out, the Republicans are probably a little bit hesitant on going super hard on policy, because what if you get a situation where they specifically target certain policy positions, spend a whole bunch of money attacking them in attack ads, and then the official policy comes out 4 weeks before the election or something, and it's completely different than all of her history and all of her rhetoric would seem to indicate. Now, like, what the fuck, right? Like, there's nothing, we can't pin her down.
If it changes, that's fine, but you could still attack some of her previous policies. I'm gonna let Disbrow get in
they're
just
doing
one
that.
second, okay? Yeah, but one of the things I want to mention is, for example, the assault weapons ban of 2019. She co-sponsored that bill, and on a stage in front of thousands of people, and including in front of America in its entirety, whenever Tim Walz got nominated, said, yes, we are doing an assault weapons ban. So she went from 2019 to now being very consistent in that that's what she wants to do. I want to make it abundantly clear so that people don't think that I'm being a Kamala stand.
So
I am only trying to be as reasonable as I can here.
Doghouse.
I'm almost done. Done. So here's the thing. What I want to say is this. Yes, let's Desperado after me. So all I'm going to say is this. I do not want to vote for Kamala, period, especially because of the assault weapons ban. I think it's the most absurd piece of legislation I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm not going to vote for Kamala, but all I want is us to be reasonable here and not keep putting our head in the sand and plug in our ears because we just don't want to admit facts. Go ahead, Desperado.
So the thing I was going to say is that when we're looking at this, we also have to look at political strategy as well as like politics at the same time. Like, it would be great for her to put out this list of policies that she supports and whatnot before she for her campaign and everything. But right now she's riding a wave. She's riding a very, very big wave. The second she puts out policies, people could have issues with those policies at that time there, and it wouldn't necessarily generate the wave of people that she's trying to ride on right now with polls and stuff. So I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm just saying that this looks more like political strategy than it does actual like
100%.
how the political campaign should be run. Now, once the wave starts to crash or peak or whatnot, I'm pretty sure she's going to put out those policies. But right now, she's riding a wave that's getting bigger.
So, Doghouse, I've got a question for you. So you're talking about Kamala being consistent. I'm just asking you this question. I'm just asking you this question. It's not to poke at you. This isn't a gotcha moment.
It's fine. Before you go on, I did not say that she was consistent all the time, nor did I said she was consistent.
Okay,
specifically the assault weapons.
I was going to ask if you think she was going to be consistent in one specific issue.
Well,
So I'm the question here being is, and everyone else is free to answer the question as well. Will Kamala keep the same border policy that she did as vice president and decide that's not the part of the job that she wants and to just completely disregard the border? Is she going to remain consistent?
I don't know if she's going to necessarily disregard the border. I think what we've seen so far I don't want to make this a border debate, but I'll go into it a little bit. I think what we've seen from the Biden campaign is they've taken a very hands-off approach and they aren't really trying to invest in infrastructure. Now, there was an infrastructure bill, but that infrastructure bill got knocked down by Republicans.
Do you not remember Kamala being named the what they call her? The borders are, and then she decided that she didn't want that, and she's like, I'm not going down the border.
Look, I did not come into this debate looking into all about the border czar situation. I would sit here and say that from what I understand, she did sit there and conservatives blasted this meme everywhere where she said, do not come at a meeting with Guatemalans. Now, granted, what is that? It's quite literally lip service. But, and I have actually been pretty vocal about this on Twitter.
Isn't that the same meeting they were holding up signs saying, go back home?
Probably. If you see me on Twitter, what I have done on Twitter, and I've been very vocal about, is that a lot of what Kamala has done so far, and the Biden administration, has left it up to the states to really try to enforce their own borders. We saw this with
that's fake news.
Okay, you're about to laugh at what I just said then, because I was about to say your friend Abbott, who is in my state as well, put up barbed wire. And so if you think that's funny, go on, Gibbs. This is what happens when you preemptively say things. But
hold on, let's talk about that barbed wire. Hold on. You want to talk about that barbed wire?
No,
they also tore that shit down. They also become all admit that tore that shit down.
Milk. Hey, did we ever tie the milk to the hanger? Anyways, so what I want to say is,
that was a good one, Papa. We tied my sausage to your mouth. I mean, that's okay.
Let's talk about. Let's say this last thing. Abbott, in regards to the infrastructure, Abbott had to put up barbed wire and do a whole lot of flotation devices and things like that. What Biden did is take a very hands-off approach to the border. Now, I understand that there has to be an infrastructure bill that has to get passed in order to beef up staffing and everything else. I don't want to turn this into a border debate, but you're not going to see me sitting here defending Kamala about being a border czar because, quite frankly,
I bring that up to bring up a point that she has no problem derelicting duty. If she thinks that she's above it, she has no problem derelicting. I think the Democrats made the biggest mistake in this election they possibly could have by choosing Kamala. I sincerely thought the Democratic National Committee DNC was going to choose Gavin Newsom. Like, as much as I don't like Gavin Newsom and would prefer Kamala to run, I think the Democrats did a tragedy to their own party by nominating Kamala Harris to run for president rather than Gavin Newsom.
The polls are showing it. The polls are showing that they love Kamala by like 40, almost 2-point margin.
They hate Trump. They hate Trump.
There's another. And
these are also just polls. This is you calling somebody and going, "Huh? Who do you like?"
When we're looking at what is it when presidents and like presidential like campaigns are running and whatnot. Whenever the incumbent president is running, if that incumbent president steps down, according to tradition, the vice president takes his place, usually. And this even includes when it comes to, different...
Kamala Harris should have been the exception.
No.
They should have looked at it and went, oh, shit, that's a mistake.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that this
just
is
like Mike Pitts. I'd be saying the same thing if it was Mike Pitts. Mike Pitts should be the exception for the Republicans.
What I'm getting at is that this is like a tradition that things that people have done, and the DNC looks at Kamala and be like, "Hey, this person is safe to put in this position to get the policies and positions that we want."
I tend to agree with this.
Have to fight with her.
I actually tend to agree with this as a smart strategic move by the Dems. Like you brought up Newsom, other people brought up like Buttigieg, and what's the guy? His name from
Buttigieg. So Buttigieg, he's not even liked by his own fucking city here.
Well, okay, we're either here or there, but I was just, picking a few rising stars. They suggested him. What's his name from Ohio or whatever? The Rust Belt guy. I can't think of it. Shapiro. There you go.
Shapiro?
And so there you go. And so like, there's a few of them they could have used, and instead what they did is they put the safe pick. Right. She already had the name out there. She's got name recognition. She's like, if we lose her, we didn't waste a good guy because it's like you lose your star sometimes if they lose a main election, right? Like, it really takes away from their presidential ability. It feels like, so they don't have to waste a big name. If she wins, you get her 4 years. She gets the incumbency advantage. She probably get another 8 years of her, and then maybe her chosen successor, right? So like, if they win, it's a big win. If they lose, it's a mad lose. Whenever they like what will look like a sure loss. I don't know. See, it's a bad strategic.
If this was going to happen, Biden should have stepped down 2.5 years into his term.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, listen, I'm not going to argue that, but I will say this just shows the dishonesty overall.
I'm just saying, if you're
Biden out like back.
Wait 1 second. If you're being the Democratic Party and you're trying to strategize the election, Biden should have stepped down 2.5 years into his term, which would have given Kamala a free 1.5 years, and also would have given her enough time to try and gain the real world, to try and gain the credibility and reputation of the Democratic voters.
And there would have actually been a primary, so the Democratic voters could actually pick their candidate as opposed to this fucking coup that happened.
Right, yeah, okay, I agree with all that, but as far as strategy, you have to deal with what's really happening. You can't we can't go look back like 2.5 years and be like, well, it would have been perfect. You have to use what's happening.
Here's the thing. You can go backwards all day long and say what could have, should have, would have done. But the fact is, and this is what I've been saying for the past hour, which is that I initially thought Shapiro would have been the better pick. But poll after poll after poll after poll is showing that doesn't matter, and that it looks like she is going up and up and up.
People hate Trump, and what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I'm glad
they could put blame from
one at a time, please.
I'm really happy the polls are going the way they're going, because this is ultimately going to hurt Kamala more than it's going to help. The issue here being is that the poll numbers are rising in her favor, simply because people hate Trump. This is no love for Kamala. This is all hate for Trump. And honestly, this is going to come back to bite them in the ass, because the Democrats are going to feel comfortable. They're going to feel safe, and they're not going to show up to the polls. people aren't going to go vote because they're going to feel safe and they're going to sit down in their chair and go, you know what? My vote doesn't matter that much. I'm going to stay home. And you know what? Free to be it. But at the same time, this is a strategic mistake.
I want to ask anybody that's here right now, because one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on with these polls as well is that there are 3 key events in the next couple of months that I'm keeping an eye on. One is the DNC that's taking place next month or next week. I see that going up. There's a debate that's supposed to take place in September, and there's one that people seem to not even have on their radar, which, guess what? Assuming that this goes through, we have a Trump sentencing in September, assuming that it gets pushed back. And so a lot of people want to sit here and go, oh, well, Trump has this opportunity. What opportunity does Trump have? Only one I see right now is that he has the opportunity at the debate. There could be a good push should he get sentenced and somehow rouse up the base. But here's another problem we're facing, which is we're seeing this exiling of certain leaning people, leaning conservatives, such as Joe Rogan, Kyle Rittenhouse, just to name a few. And we've seen this like vicious attack by the MAGA base, which and the far right has even left. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name on here, but there's a certain frogman out there on the far right who's ended up leaving. So that's my whole thing, is that how many opportunities does Trump have to really pull back those numbers on those polls? Every opportunity in the next several months up to the election looks very, very hard for Trump.
Here's the problem. It's not on him, though. It's not on him. Like, Kamala's experiencing a sugar high right now, right? She's fresh. She was just put in undemocratically, by the way, but for some reason they don't seem to care about that. And she hasn't engaged at all with the media. I think that when she starts engaging with the media, and people remember like how fucking unlikable she actually is, right? Because everyone fucking knew it back in the primary. Spratt was right about that. Her poll numbers were atrocious, right? Because she'd go up on that debate stage, say dumb shit, say some word salad, get lost in her words. I mean, she's not a good speaker. She's not a good speaker, and she's not likable, and she does have a history that can be attacked. And so when she begins to speak more, I think she's going to lose some of that edge. And as we get closer to the election, I think that some of that enthusiasm is going to die down. You have currently Time Magazine, right, is putting her face up on the map. It's her moment. It's her time. And I think that people might get motivated by that. Yeah, especially the debate, right? But people are going to get motivated by that. But then what's going to happen is they're going to see it as cheesy, just like they saw Hillary Clinton as cheesy near the end.
But here's the thing. You could watch Trump debate and you could realize what Trump's debate strategy is. Trump's debate strategy is to bring you down into basically a name calling match. And Trump is going to win that game all day, every day. Okay. Biden was just Trump's like kryptonite, right? That Biden wasn't aware enough to be drawn into the whole name calling match. Kamala is not that dumb, and also is not that smart. She will get drawn right into the name calling match, and Trump will beat the ever loving crap out of her in the debate because she decided to go into the name calling match and lost terribly.
The one thing I was going to say, and this has gone over, is the reason why the DNC and everything have basically coronated Kamala is because she's the only person that had access, that could have access to Biden's funding and war chest. Like any other candidate would have been starting at square one and trying to get the funding necessary to run a campaign in the last 4 to 5 months of the election cycle is political suicide.
Okay, so do we want to do the next topic right now, or do we want to stick on this for a while longer? Cool.
Next topic. We're so off topic at this point. It's ridiculous.
Well, I wasn't
the
sure.
Milk expired at the hangar, just so we know. The milk expired at the hangar.
So Donald Trump and now Kamala Harris is supporting the end of taxation of tips. Do you think this is a good policy, and what will be the outcomes if they did? Harris says she supports eliminating taxes on tips, mirroring Trump. Vice President Harris, at a Las Vegas rally Saturday night, suggested she would support ending taxes on tipping, a policy initiative that has become popular with former President Donald Trump on the campaign trail. The idea, exempting tip income from federal income and payroll taxes, has become a common policy line item for Trump as a way of courting working-class voters. With Harris adopting the same message, it appears they each want to earn support from service workers. It is my promise to everyone here when I am president, we will continue to fight for working families, including to raise the minimum wage and eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers, Harris said on Saturday night. Harris was endorsed Friday by the Culinary Union 226. Many members were in attendance for a rally in Las Vegas. Culinary Union is part of a group that represents 60,000 workers in Las Vegas and Reno. Her remarks are similar to the ones from Trump. In June, also in Las Vegas, Trump said that hotel workers and other service industry employees should be very happy because if he's elected, he is going to not charge taxes on tips. Some have questioned how the proposal will work and have noted it could carry a hefty price tag. In June, a budget watchdog estimated that implementing the practice could mean a decrease of up to $250 billion in federal revenues over a decade. So let's go ahead and start with Gibbs.
Wait, over 1 decade? So you're talking what? 25,
We're doing openings.
250 million a year?
Yeah, we're doing openings.
Is it billion or million?
billion.
You say billion or million?
250 billion.
Okay, so it'd be 250. It'd be the equivalent of $250 million a year.
Yeah.
No, it's 25 million a year.
You're right. Never mind. 25. I was trying to do the math. Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. So,
I got
Gibbs,
you,
how do you
buddy.
feel about this?
Anyway,
Yeah. So I mean, okay, one, yeah, let's not tax them. I mean, they're barely making any money as is. I don't know. I'm always against for like tax cuts. Big fan there. I was also the other assumption that most people didn't pay taxes under a certain amount anyway, or paid very little. I mean, I don't even know what that number is anymore, but I know that it's pretty low. I think it's like 40K. So yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Let's make the people pay taxes on tips. I'm a big fan of that. Whoever does it, I dislike for Kamala for other reasons. You know what? But I do think, let me just pivot because that's what, Gibbs does here is he pivots in circles. I don't know. But I'll say this. It does show the lack of intelligence and originality by Kamala. She goes, wow, that was a popular thing by Trump. I'm going to just do that too because I don't actually have any policy. She doesn't have any policy under Biden. When she did vote, she has like one of the highest amounts of absentee voting when she was in Congress of like anybody ever. She's fucking just awful. I mean, we saw how great she did as the border czar. She had if she was just the migrant czar, she failed at that. They came in droves. She failed at the border. She's failed as a vice president. We've had the treasonous Biden administration. It's failed as a presidency. It's the worst presidency since Herbert Hoover. It's fucking awful. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess yay, she's gonna lower taxes on tips. I don't get tips anyway, so good.
Sounds good to me. Lactoid?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is she absolutely stole this campaign part from Trump, right? It polls popularly, so she took it because, hey, when you haven't released a campaign platform yet, why not just go ahead and add to it from your opponent if it happens to be polling well? We'll see. Maybe she'll adopt Make America Great Again later. It could be. It could happen. But taxes are theft. And ultimately, this is a good fucking idea. This is not only should tips not be taxed, but I would argue that income should not be taxed. This idea that the government thinks they can take from you, your labor, is coercion. It's non-consensual, and it's brutal theft that's occurring on a widespread level. The fact that we have a presidential candidate seriously arguing for removing taxes on tips, I think is a positive. I would like to see more things be argued to not be taxed, especially income, just general income, especially income from people making less than six figures. None of that should be taxed. So I really do hope to see this kind of idea expand. I think it does prove that when it comes down to it, a lot of libertarian policies are popular. And a lot of people do want to appeal to libertarians. I do want to appeal to the libertarian element in people, which is, hey, don't steal my shit. And hopefully that continues and people keep doing it more and more. And hopefully we will eventually get to a world in which we have less theft, because that's a better world by definition.
Right. Desperado.
I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat, anybody that's for reducing taxes on working people, especially lower income people, I am all for.
Awesome. Cut and dry. Sprout.
Kamala saw how bad of a move this was and flipped switch. Which doesn't ultimately convince me that this is actually what she believes or that this is actually what she's going to do in her term as presidency. Like I said, I look a lot more at your actions than you do your words. You can say anything; it's your actions to me that matter. But ultimately, if I was going to have my way with taxes, I would I would find what would be considered a living wage. Obviously, with inflation, and everything, trying to figure out what that living wage would be on average, right? And then that national average would just be the tax-free amount of money that you get. So you get a living wage tax-free, and then taxes start after you meet that a certain amount of money that would be considered livable on average in the United States. So I mean that's where I would start with a tax policy. I don't know why we're going as short as not taxing tips. But hey, if that's the start, if that's the tiptoe that we have to take before we start kind of actually getting into it, then that's the tiptoe we have to take. I just wish it wasn't as minor as making sure that tips aren't taxed.
All right, Tiberius.
Yeah, apparently I'm going to have the dissension the dissension here. Number one, I think this is a terrible fucking policy. When it comes down to it on a number of levels, first and foremost is that these people are usually the people who skip out on taxes more than any other group of people. They will usually take their credit card tips and claim that and nothing in their cash tips. So they underpay in their taxes, first and foremost. When it comes to going further, congratulations, America. We just passed $35 trillion in federal debt. And people are like, yeah, let's cut taxes. That's fucking stupid. Straight up, either one of two policies actually needs to be put into effect. Either A, we need to double tax tips so we actually get our fucking share, or B, we need to do everything possible to get rid of tipping in the United States because it's a fucking terrible deal that most people actually don't get good money out of anyway. We talk about Uber drivers, DoorDash drivers, most waitresses, most bartenders. Most of these people are in the bottom quintile of earners. They're actually on more welfare than almost any other profession. This is a terrible thing. Like, this is not even, it's a terrible form of employment. Like, we absolutely should be trying to get rid of this shit, not encourage it. Fuck this. This is a terrible policy.
Thank you, Tiberius.
Oh.
Doghouse.
That's a very conservative take of yours. I'm very impressed.
All right, so wow, I love being last because it's like, where do I begin? So, first and foremost, I'm probably going to agree with more the group than I'm going to disagree. But there's a distinct difference between Kamala and Trump's policies that actually makes Kamala's policies significantly worse. And what that particular committee that you were talking about, Lethe, earlier was discussing, is in their article. They actually mentioned that the reason why it was $100 to $200 billion is because of something Sprout actually mentioned, which is that they would Kamala is actually looking at increasing the minimum wage, and so that $200 billion figure is actually tying into the fact and considering her increasing the minimum wage. Trump's actual budget numbers were actually a little bit lower in terms of how it would affect the deficit because of the fact that it was not including Kamala Harris's increase in the minimum wage. Like Tiberius said, this is where I'll start to agree with a little bit with Tiberius, is I tend to agree that it's interesting that conservatives for the longest time have always said, let's reduce the debt, reduce the debt, reduce the debt, always argue that the Democrats have increased the debt, increased the debt, increased the debt. And here it is. They're like, hey, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. But in reality, what we're seeing is what we've always seen, which is Trump has always leaned kind of more left than he has leaned right. Now, as far as the tipping thing, like Tiberius said, obviously, yes, certain people are tipped, but they're also 1099 contractors. I believe that's a situation that goes on with Uber, a lot of delivery drivers, things like that. So that's way more than just the fact of it being tipped. That's just the fact of them not being a W-2 employee. In terms of the amount of revenue, tax revenue that we would lose, it's pretty significant, but I don't know if I'm well equipped for this debate to go into the little taxes or theft arguments. I think that's a mile long conversation, and I don't have that much well prepared for it. But yeah, I kind of lean on both sides, and and that's what I was going to say too. Is last thing, Tiberius saying that a lot of people don't report the cash tips. That is a large portion of the issue. right? Which is they don't report cash tips. And how do you force people to report cash tips? Good luck. Good luck. How do you know that somebody didn't slip $1 and then they took it into their pocket? Good luck. The government's not gonna be able to track that. That's the last thing I promise. I do advocate for, if conservatives really want to win over the moderate and the American family, they want to go for child tax credits. They want to go for things that will affect their family, like dependent care credits. Dependent care credits go for like things like daycare. If you have a grandmother or someone who lives in the house who does things like that, dependent care cover, you sometimes may cover that. That is not accounting advice, by the way. Also, you have things like the child care credit that just generally increases. We saw that happen under COVID. That was really helpful. Things like that, all for. But that is how you win over the moderate, instead of trying to pass like broad sweeping like minimum wage increases and things like that. Sorry, long-winded. Go ahead.
All right, opening up the conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna say this right here, Ty. This is the take right here that like separates you from righties and lefties. And this is why you are not a conservative. Like, one, you got some other lefty takes, but like right here, this shows you're not economically conservative. Like, what's more conservative? Like, also, I take issue with the moderate thing. I think that there are a lot of moderates, like especially in the Joe Biden economy, that are doing gig work. And like they get tips, right? Like I don't understand what this idea, like, oh, slip a 20 in your pocket, they're not gonna report that. Like, why should they? It's a gift. They gifted you this 20 for your good service. They gifted like, that's ridiculous. Like, how is that not gonna win over moderates? You don't know, like, hey, oh, this guy slipped me a 20 for Ubering later. That means I can go get me a Whataburger and a coffee in the morning.
What are you gonna do?
You know,
are you seriously gonna sit down? Are you seriously gonna sit down like
both of y'all?
Wait, one second. One second. I'm gonna add on to it a little bit. Are you seriously suggesting people are supposed to sit down and like have a ledger of cash tips that they received? That way they can do all the
legally
math
they
correctly.
should, folks. You legally should.
Legally, you should, but do you think that's actually going to happen in reality?
Has anybody worked in the service industry here? Has anybody ever worked like actually waited tables or
always worked in the service industry?
I haven't waited tables, but I've worked in the service industry.
No, but when I'm saying that is like, have you actually had to work off of tips before? Have any of you ever had to work off of tips?
I think most of us have at some point, I'm sure.
Okay.
Well, just be clear, I worked at Subway, all right, and like surprisingly, we did actually make like a tips turned out to be like a somewhat sizable portion.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay,
sure. I'm talking about were you ever in the wage status in which you were under the legal minimum wage and required tips in order to make a living?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, because there is a record. You do have to record at the end of the day.
Yes.
Now,
that's what I said. You're supposed to keep a ledger. Yeah.
Yeah, you can under record. You can do that, but if you get caught, you're boned. Like,
you can also take,
hardcore.
You could also take guesstimates at which is most of the time what happens.
But I mean, the difference is yes, like especially in those situations, you should record. But I was in my reference, I was mainly referring to like the gig drivers. Now, I mean, like all of them, I think I like this proposal for all of them not getting taxed because as a conservative, an actual conservative, not a fake conservative like Tiberius over here, I think tax cuts help the economy, and so
policy will actually make
and they're ethical.
I want you to answer that.
Well, and they're ethical.
What tax policy would make you conservative? I would love to know that answer.
Let me fight this for a second, because
tax cuts is one of them. That's for sure.
He keeps catching strays. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, I'm going to catch strays. I'm going to fight back here a little bit. Okay, so this is the problem I have with this. Like, fine, I don't give a shit. Like, this is the problem I have with this. You're not conservative if you don't like taxes, but you're also not conservative if you don't like a balanced budget. Like, one or the two needs to fuck.
No. There's actually a way, by the way. There's a way to get a balanced budget without stealing from people. It's called cutting spending. It's called not passing how many fucking new trillions of dollars in spending.
Regulations.
When we're out of the fucking pandemic, like somebody did, right? And some president I've heard of, right? Who gets into power and then just passes tremendous amounts of spending without justification.
Okay, so let me split hairs here real quick, because one, I've got to fight with Gibbs, and the other part I got to fight with Lactoid. The fight with Gibbs here is that, someone needs to tell me how to be a true conservative when it's like you don't want to have taxes, but you also want a balanced budget.
Hold on. I'm not a libertarian. I think that I'm not a fan of taxes. As like an economic conservative, I would like as many tax cuts as we can get.
They are morally reprehensible.
Sure, yeah. I mean, on a personal level, I find them morally reprehensible, and if I could find a way to pay zero taxes, like, the genius billionaire Donald J. Trump did when they asked him about it, he said, yeah, you're right. I don't pay taxes because your people wrote the code for me. Absolutely. He's speaking from experience. So same kind of thing here. Now, I would love to be able to do that, right? I think we all should strive to do that.
Reagan? Do you love Reagan?
Some of Reagan, yeah, before the dementia.
Did you know that he implemented the tax on tips?
Sure. I mean, like I said some, didn't I? I didn't say all of them. He wouldn't have been my favorite president.
Reagan did a lot bad. I mean, like, let's be clear.
Yeah,
here, right?
he's not my favorite.
He dramatically expanded Social Security disability. He dramatically expanded tax. Apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently he started taxing tips. It wouldn't surprise me. There were things about Reagan that were particularly bad, but that doesn't mean that somebody you like did something bad, therefore you must think it's good. No, that's morally reprehensible.
Also, Reagan is not like even one of my go-to presidents. I would be much more like a Bushian neocon. Hold on. I mean, anybody knows me. I say that all the time. But like, my issue is you sit here and advocate a very aggressive authoritarian policy of the taxes in the first place, Ty. And then you, secondly, on top of that, want enforcement things in addition to this, where it's like double taxes. None of what you're saying is like conservative in the least. And the issue I have, and the reason I keep bringing up this fake conservatism is because I think this fake branding is actually dangerous, right? People present themselves one way, and these people think that, this guy actually represents a conservative section, and they're like, this just seems like whatever, and you can sway maybe somebody the wrong way with what I think is dishonesty or at least ignorance or confusion. I don't really know. It's concerning.
All right, so let me revote. No. I've got 3 different fucking notes here. First and foremost, when it comes to conservatism, I have said this many, many times. I hardly ever own the term conservative ever in my life. And the only time that I do is if I go with the term Burkean conservative, which is basically a slow rolling moderate.
Tiberius,
because it's like, hey, look.
Tiberius, I gotta stop you here. I went to dinner with you. I went to dinner with you, and you stopped every single person that passed by the table to tell them you were conservative. I don't know.
Wait, what?
Why'd you do this?
This is going a whole new level that I wasn't expecting.
No, I got some concern.
Yeah, I don't know even what he's talking about.
I was fucking around.
Cage match? Let the cage match begin, bro. I'm out of this.
Oh my god.
So was it like, hey, excuse me, I need some water. Also, I'm conservative.
Yeah, yeah, because that's totally what I do.
I'll take the 6 wings. Also, I'm conservative. That's what happened.
Were the vegans damn, shut up about it already?
Yeah. There were vegans at Buffalo Wild Wings, okay? They were there yelling at him about stop.
I want to hear about this conservatism. Go, Ty.
All right, look, I'm 10 minutes from my house. I can scream at you when I'm on my proper mic because clearly y'all can't hear me with this shit. But first and foremost, look, I don't usually go around saying I'm conservative. That's actually something that the other guys bitch about me is they say I'm a conservative when I don't really even claim it. I do claim that I'm right wing, and they can bitch all day about that, but I'm a better right winger than them motherfuckers ever will be because, quite frankly, they become a bunch of liberal pussies. It's really fucking weird. I unironically enough, I hear more leftist talking points from fucking Rob Nord than I do leftists. It's ridiculous. When it comes down to a lot of this other shit, it's like, all right, cool. I want to be a conservative. I'm like, all right, well, what is your form of conservatism? They'll be like, all right, I want low taxes and I want a balanced budget. And that shit doesn't float with me.
What is more?
It does. Right? Reduce spending. If you spend less,
I haven't got to you
can cut more. It becomes balanced.
Hold on. I want you to explain to me. Hold on. What's more pussy than this take that you've given me, which is, the rest of us got left behind. We need the government to come hold my hand and wipe my ass. What's more pussy than that take?
True.
Did he say that?
Yeah. What is more pussy than that? You've literally argued that stance. So sorry, your boat don't float.
What makes you believe that he argued that stance? I'm gonna steal man.
He'll tell you. He'll tell you argue that stance. Tell him.
I've largely argued this stance just because I fucking can't stand Gibbs's whole like take of, hey, look, fuck everybody else. I don't care about, fuck them kids, fuck everybody else. I'm just like, hey, dude, like if any time that these lefties come to me and say we want to raise the taxes on the wealthy and go after Gibbs, I'm like, sorry, Gibbs, but you never wanted to work with anybody else, so fuck you, dude. We're gonna raise your taxes.
Nah, that's lies, bro. I heard this take before I came on the scene, and I took objection to it. That's the whole point. You've argued this take for years, months. I don't know. It's a while. Let me tell you.
I want to argue on the stance of Ty. Are you done? Are you guys?
No, I'm not done. I still have like 4 other points.
Yeah, he still has juice. Let's go.
Yeah, anyway, like,
He's not
okay,
home
so when
yet.
it comes to lactoid, this is why I'm not a libertarian, right? Like, okay, cool, you don't like income tax? All right, fine. Let's cut that out of the budget. Oh, shit. First, we were at the point where we're already still, $1 trillion in deficit right now? And granted, I'd love to cut shit, but, this is why libertarianism isn't popular, is that they don't want to cut the spending. They'll happily cut their fucking taxes all damn day long because no one wants to pay for a goddamn thing and put it on the credit card. But tell me how it's popular when we can't cut a goddamn thing, Lactoid.
Yeah.
We can't.
No,
we never fucking do.
I understand. Like, we are, unfortunately, and this is, like, it is so unfortunate. We live in a country with a bunch of spending addicted assholes, right? It's true. And we have people addicted to welfare. We have people addicted to government services. We have people addicted to the government. It's a real problem. I don't deny this. So the question is not one of trying to get everything that I want, because if I got everything that I want, this country would look very different. The question is, how do we mitigate the harm? How do we stop the bleeding as much as possible? And how we don't do that is support a political party which has been overwhelmingly in favor of raising spending. I mean, the fucking Republicans had to fight the Dems down, like, to the $600 a week unemployment boost that they were handing out, or something fucking crazy. It was initially going to be like double that, like $1,200 a week or something fucking crazy like that. Like, every single time the Democrats are just like, let's fucking spend out the moon. And then the Republicans are like, well, hold on a second, right? We got to spend something, but like, please, let's not go fucking crazy. Like, we have to look at the world. We have to look at America, and we have to do what we can do to reduce spending, or at least prevent new spending as much as possible, and do the ethical thing, which is stop stealing from people, because that's part of it.
Lactoid. So this is part of the whole issue, is that the no one has enough political capital to actually. I don't think anyone has enough political capital to get us out of deficit spending. Because you're talking about farmers getting upset because their crops were I forget what the word is, but they were paid. They were paid. It was their crops were subsidized and no longer being subsidized. That. So now it's very hard for them to kind of make a living off of a lot less money than they were.
Yeah,
you're talking about all these different things that are going to be cut, and it's going to hit just about everybody. No one has enough political capital for this. Even if someone tried to do this and was somewhat successful, they would get voted out of office because of the mass amount of outrage from the American people. No one has enough political capital to get you there.
No, hold on. I just got finished saying this. I understand that, politically speaking, because we live in a country with a bunch of addicts, because we live in a country with a bunch of like addicts and people who genuinely don't care about other people's rights. Most people don't think about politics. Most people just sort of like, I want what's mine. Frankly, a little bit like Gibbs, right? But they are, unlike Gibbs, they're much more willing to use the government to go steal it from people to help themselves. And
because they're dishonest.
They're dishonest and terrible people. I get it. But here's the thing, right? This is why I'm saying mitigation. Yes, we can't do everything that I want to do, but at the very least, we should do everything we can to prevent the problem of government spending from getting worse. Because there is nothing more permanent than a temporary government program, right? Whenever you get new spending, that shit doesn't get rolled back. And now what we're getting is the amount of interest that we're paying on our debt, because we've racked up so much debt with the reckless spending the government's been doing, that the amount of interest we're paying on that debt is becoming a major problem. I've been hearing from several sources that it's really like either eclipsed or is close to eclipsing the money that we make, quote unquote, the money that we take off of income taxes, just on the interest. That's fucking crazy.
Can I
It's
propose
not that
something?
bad, but it's over $1 trillion now. We're spending more than $1 trillion in our budget just on servicing interest, which is not a
Wild.
good place to be. Yeah.
Can I
So like,
propose something?
all right, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll be on
I
my
just want to get
on
this
my
one thing
computer
in because
here.
I've been wanting to get in. Yeah, I've been wanting to get it in for like the past 20 minutes. Lactoid, how do you feel then about refundable tax credits? Like certain, because I think it's a way to means test. It's also a way to help lower people's overall tax bill, and even can bring in a little bit of money in the case that they are actually over on those tax bills. Whereas a non-refundable tax credit would not put you in a state where you could get money back from that credit. I feel like that's a
Yeah,
perfect way to mitigate that.
it's definitely better than refundable tax credits. I'm a little bit skeptical of tax credits, especially refundable tax credits, because there's really not too much of a difference between that and the government just sending you a check for however much fucking money. And the government, and ultimately, the government is still involved in it for some fucking reason. I think the best idea would be you have to be, before you even have to file a tax return, or that you get to file a tax return, depending on how much money you're getting back, you have to like make a certain amount of money, right? Then like that would be like, and then we keep moving the number up and up and up while we're reducing spending down and down and down, and eventually, hopefully, we can get rid of the income tax, because the income tax specifically, I think, is the closest thing in this country that we still have to slavery. Think about it, right? We're taking half of the shit that you make. How is that like what? It's half slavery, really.
I just want to make this note because I want people to understand that the refundable tax credit currently, as it stands, exists. This is why I'm mentioning this, because there's a lot. Anybody who doesn't know in chat, because I saw someone in chat mention that the refundable tax credit already exists, and I believe the dependent care credit, I believe, is refundable. Don't quote me. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA. Don't take my advice. So that's why when I've always looked at it, I said that's the way that Republicans really need to go for if they really want to try to like kind of toe the line a little bit between like, trying to appeal a little bit to the left in terms of like giving a little bit of money out. But the problem I've seen before is that when we had the early child tax credit, where we ended up during COVID giving out a blank check for those basically in advance on that child tax credit, what we saw is a lot of people's tax bill go way up. Why? Because they ended up using that credit early when they probably shouldn't have. And it ended up resulting in a larger increase in taxes.
Because they bought crypto with it. They like people were so reckless with that shit.
Oh yeah. That's don't even start with the stimulus bill and the fucking early like, and mind you too, two stimulus checks under Trump. Just saying, okay.
Look. I criticized all that shit when it happened. I was very vehemently critical. But here's the thing: there is a difference, and I think it's fair. There is a difference when it comes to spending, like at the height of a pandemic, and using a pandemic to weasel your way into spending more. There is a difference between the two, right? And the reality is, when you compare like from 2016, like or I guess 2020 as well, when you compare like Trump's spending policies and platforms, etc., to any of the Dems, I remember literally seeing these numbers up in CNN, right? Like they spend less. Republicans tend to spend less. They also tend to either cut taxes or not raise taxes, right? So there is less inflow, but that's a good thing. We shouldn't be stealing from people.
I want to piggyback off of this a little bit. So me and Lactoid have kind of gone rounds on this one before, and I know Sprout's been around for it, and maybe a few of you as well. Like, this is actually one of the reasons why I want to be a Republican, but, the whole MAGA wing just pushes me away. Because Republicans are better spenders. When they actually spend the dollars, they tend to spend less, and they tend to spend money on shit that's actually effective. Whenever we actually build something out here in the Midwest, we're building interstates. When you get liberals together to fucking spend money, they build a fucking high-speed rail system that might not ever work at all, right? Like, consistently. Great example of this was...
Also, to be very clear, Indiana usually ends up with a surplus, too, just to add on to that.
We're literally we're one of the few states that do. Like, most red states don't even follow our lead. Thanks, losers. But when it comes down to it, straight up, like, whenever Republicans say, hey, look, we're going to do a Green New Deal of whatever choosing that we want to do, it's like $800 billion. It's for nuclear plants. It's for shit that actually makes fucking sense. And then when you get the dim version of it, it's $4 trillion for shit that doesn't even help, because it's like, oh, cool, we're going to put all this money in behind EVs, but we're not going to worry about actually changing the power grid to actually make it to where, we make less carbon. It blows my fucking mind. And
well, hold on. That's not true. That's not true. I'll give you an example of a red state that does that, and that's Texas. Texas has the largest green footprint of any state. Even left leaning, right leaning. We have our grid. I know everybody likes to make fun of it.
Shitting on Dems, dude.
I know, but hold on.
Talking about reds, right?
I know, but you're kind of but you're skipping something here. Like I don't know. You're just not giving credit. You said something about the the South.
I said
the
Republicans do it better.
Not having surpluses.
Republicans do it better.
All right,
he ain't listening, Ty.
I am listening, but he's over here. He's hold on. You're saying good things.
He's listening to respond. He's not.
No, yeah. Hold on. This is what he's doing. This is the dishonest Dems thing. He pretending to be conservative and giving credit to something while secretly sliding in insult. Like other Republican states, other Republicans are state. He goes, but he slides in the insult. Hold on. Yeah. It should be, because people need to define these things.
Okay,
yeah,
so,
there's good gaping's good.
So you think the Ty's a Dim? So should he vote for Kamala then? Do you think?
Well, we know he's already voting for Kamala.
Oh, okay. So you don't want to persuade him to your conservative side. You just want to gatekeep.
We could try.
Wait. You're voting for Kamala, Tiberius?
I'm actually debating on if I'm going to stay in the fuck home, to be honest.
That's even worse.
It's okay, Gibbs. He doesn't live in a swing state. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
I'm not worried.
Yeah, number one, I don't live in it.
Hey,
number
Florida's
one, I don't live
in a swing state. Just saying, okay? It's at
no.
Oh my god!
Yes, there was a 2%.
I saw that article today.
Poll this morning. I saw it. There was a 2% poll between Kamala and Trump today, and Kamala was only behind by 2. Now,
that is fake news. That is fake news. The Florida shit. Florida's going red.
Damn it.
I promise you, Florida's going red. Pennsylvania is going to be real close. That's a swing state for sure.
Yeah, my whole point was
going to Pennsylvania.
My whole point was Ty was over here sliding these insults in this tirade of how good Republicans are, but these other red states don't have surpluses. And then he goes back to this lefty bullshit.
Yeah, I fucking threw it in there because it's like, it's Republicans are better at spending money.
The moment
you dude.
No, this is the problem I have too. Is the moment you criticize any conservative policy, you're immediately labeled a Democrat or a rhino. It's like, why are we not allowed to criticize?
He actually is a rhino.
See, okay, you're proving my fucking point, kid.
But he actually kind of is a little bit of a rhino, though. I mean,
he is a rhino. Lactoid and I disagree on policy all the time, but I know he's not a rhino. Why? Because he's 90% like similar, 80%, 70%. Ty's like 20%, and then he's like, it's like if I had a ladybug and then I had a rock and I painted like the ladybug spots on there, and I said this is a ladybug. That's Tiberius. And then I guess they're pretty similar because they have the same color pattern.
I don't want to take this too far off the topic of taxes, but it's kind of related. My biggest issue I've faced is because I'm someone who really tries to look at each issue on its own, call balls, call strikes, and then if I get a few calls wrong, like I did earlier when I talked about that Axios article with Laxwood, I'll call and say, hey, I made a bad call. And I think the problem is that the moment you try to call a ball or a strike for the opposing team, you get yelled at like the parent who has an absolute kid who's like supposed to be the next Craig Biggio over here. If anybody knows baseball, you know what I'm talking about, okay? And the parents screaming, "Ump, you got it wrong! Fuck you!" And just screaming at the ump. It's like, bro, I'm just trying to call the way I see it. I'm not biased in this. Your kid just sucks, and that's kind of how I'm sitting here as the ump. I'm like, bro, this just sucks.
I'll be on my computer in 5 minutes.
All right, sounds good, Ty. So that's my whole thing is like I've found this so much is that because I sit there and say that Kamala has a policy that I believe has a policy, although I understand we debate on that and understandable. Because I say these certain things, people are like, oh my God, you're voting for Kamala. Bro, I don't fucking want to vote for Kamala. But if you're going to sit there and say I'm not conservative, fuck it. I'm going to vote for Kamala out of just fucking like pure retribution, okay? But like that's my thing is like I don't want to vote for Kamala. I quite frankly right now, currently as it stands, don't want to vote for Trump. I don't want to vote for RFK because I don't fucking know half the shit he has. And so
would you vote for the worm?
Yeah,
the
can
worm,
you write
maybe.
in
RFK's a joke.
RFK's brain worm on your ballot?
Hey, it reminds me of that crazy uncle at Thanksgiving that's like he tells you a wild story and you're like, oh, uncle's had too much to drink, bro. But that's my thing is like I think you should be able to be critical of your party. And right now in this state, I don't know what it is. I have been critical of Trump before in the past, but godly, the past month or past few weeks, really, I have been labeled all sorts of lefty type shit. because I sit there and call a ball on a strike.
Yeah, but I'm not pro-Trump. But I'm not pro-Trump. I like bash that Trump does all the time.
No, okay,
I like
that drives me nuts too. I don't know if this is you, Gibbs, but the people who were like, "Oh, I'm all Vivek." Oh yeah, they used Vivek like I don't like Trump, and how he's doing things. I'm voting.
I don't know about any of that.
Watch how quickly. Did y'all notice how quickly when Vivek dropped, everybody went back to Trump as if he was his Lord and Savior? Holy crap!
Well, because Vivek endorsed Trump, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, Vivek endorsed Trump after long. I think it was. Well, was it the same time he dropped out?
He essentially was endorsing Trump his entire run. Okay.
Well, yes.
Like,
no, he was a
he was up there like technically running, but like he was the only one who refused to condemn anything Trump did. Like he was basically endorsing him.
He
was 100%. The whole thing was a cabinet position thing. I think that's fair. By the way, he is I think very he thinks he's a good speaker, and I think he'll do well in a cabinet position.
That's why when someone asks me like.
No, Vivek. RFK, I think is a joke. I do think that RFK may also be trying to grapple for a cabinet position, though.
Yeah. So, could you imagine RFK talking to any world leader? Like, I know this is a meme, but like, he sounds like Farmer Fran. Like, I mean, it'd be awful. He'd be like, "You like to see what naked?"
It's
like,
so
nobody's
bad.
gonna understand what. Like you have to have a president you can take seriously. And like, Biden was bad enough that he was frail. Like, imagine we have RFK and they're sounding like Farmer Fran. That'd be awful. Like,
yeah, but for
me,
it's that's my biggest thing is just like over the past 2 weeks, I've noticed that the right is absolutely eating itself alive, and it's like, what in the hell is going on? And so for what I'm doing, Blacktoid, did you see the response to Kyle Rittenhouse by chance?
Oh, you're talking about when he endorsed Ron Paul?
Yeah, and then like 2 hours, they ate him alive.
No, I understand. Well, here's what you're noticing. Election season. That's what you're noticing. Haven't you? Well, I'm just saying, like, haven't you noted? Well, this was absolutely the case in 2020. This was absolutely the case in 2016. People tend to get like pretty. Yeah, people tend to get pretty aggressive around election time. It just is the case.
I do not remember.
Haven't you noticed? Haven't you noticed that like I will like look, this just happened. I will like call out something that was dishonest, right? That Kamala's campaign did. And then the only responses are, well, what about Trump? Well, what about Trump doing this? Well, what about that? And then even when I acknowledge that, like, actually, yeah, that was false. But then surely you should got to admit this was also false. No, that wasn't false at all. Because people become like hyper defensive. And look, as a libertarian, I voted libertarian the last 2 elections. I've never voted for Trump in my life. And so I feel as though I can approach this with a little bit of more credibility in terms of not being a partisan hack than a lot of people out there. But like,
can you name a large political figure though that did that in 2020? Can you name a large political figure that had this happen like Kyle Rittenhouse and Joe Rogan in 2020? Because I can't remember one to save my life.
I can name one in 2016, Ted Cruz, right? Where I mean, Donald Trump was fucking ripping him up on stage, and then here comes Ted calling for Trump. I mean, there is a way that like this season tends to get people to draw battle lines.
Rick Perry is another one that got done like that. Like he made the one slip up at the debate, and they went after him hard in 2016.
That's a completely different situation. Hold on. What I'm talking about right now is Kyle Rittenhouse, Joe Rogan both supported Trump heavily. And the moment that they stepped away from Trump, they got massive criticism. Ted Cruz, as far as I understand, was never really a MAGA stan until I think probably after the fact that the Republican
Party don't you see that as a betrayal? Like, okay, so this is where they're coming from, right?
Give it to me, please. I'm ready for it.
So like, okay, so I have not had the problem where you've had where people said, hold on. I've not had the problem you've had where people said I'm not a conservative or I'm a lefty, even though I break from Trump and I call Trump a lefty sometimes. I'm like, he's a Bill Clinton guy. I call saying that all the time. I call him a New York Republican, which is a Democrat.
He's Bill Clinton, all these things. Much, in
I say
ways.
These things all the time, and people go, Gibbs is a righty. He's a conservative. He's not a lefty. I've never once heard anybody call me a lefty, right? Like, and so I'm sitting here and I joke with Lethe with these socials. What you saw with like Tiberius is the gatekeeping is because he's actually a lefty kind of thing or like at least I think he is, right? So whenever you're saying this with the MAGA thing, when we look at this, Kyle Rittenhouse, and like I think you're right when you say Ted Cruz was never been a MAGA guy. I've never been like a MAGA guy. Like I didn't have this issue. So Ted Cruz may have got some of that, and like you're right, Kyle Rittenhouse did get a different situation. But I think what MAGA is saying is this guy's been one of our people. Kyle, he was lifted lifted up by the Trump campaign. He was like a pillar. Like they like looked to him as like one of these people, and then he turned on him and like in a moment of like whatever, and goes like, "Hey, I'm whatever." It'd be like a Judas moment. Like people hate Judas in the Bible. Well, even though Jesus told him Judas was going to get him killed. Like Judas is a tragic figure. So like when Joe Rogan and like Kyle Rittenhouse are these people who like have associated with MAGA, suddenly step away. Of course, you're going to get this like vitriol, reaction from these people who feel betrayed. It'd be like, I don't know, if your favorite baseball star was Derek Jeter and all of a sudden he went to the other team that you hated and started sleeping with the owner of the other place's wife. Like, you'd be mad about that. It'd be betrayal. Like, you know, it's the same kind of concept.
It is. And with Kyle Rittenhouse specifically, because I followed that case from the beginning to the end. In fact, I think Kyle Rittenhouse, I consider him to be a hero. I think that he is somebody that did heroic actions regarding the controversy. And you unfortunately had a country that wanted to demonize and destroy his life over it. And you had the Republican right in this country really be the only ones that were defending, which like the most defensible case ever, honestly, right? The fact that this was even an issue, the fact this even went to trial, honestly, is just like bizarre. But
Binger.
And so, Binger. Yeah, Binger. Oh, don't get me started on Binger. I'm in the state where this happened, and I'm telling you, like, I follow this to a T, and I was like losing my shit, right? And even today, I still argue with people about that fucking case. God, I don't get me started, right? It's absolutely wild, right? But then, like, I guess I actually understand perhaps the feelings of betrayal, but at the same time, I do agree with you that perhaps some of the response to him endorsing Ron Paul was unjustified. Ron Paul's not bad. Ron Paul is actually pretty good. And the fact that he felt that Ron Paul was better, that's perfectly reasonable. I don't think that he should have been demonized for it. Sure, you can criticize him. You can say, hey, that's not pragmatic. Here's why you should still vote for Trump. My understanding is that Rittenhouse actually following a conversation with Vivek went back to the Trump campaign. That's my understanding, based on things that he posted afterwards.
I would love to know the details of that conversation, because that was one thing that because there's a whole lot. Because here's the thing: is like he was so like his main thing that he said was that Ron Paul was better for the 2A than Trump, which is if you look at Trump's record on the 2A. There's nothing more obvious than the bump stock ban. And for any conservative who goes, oh, yeah, the Supreme Court saved us. It's like, yeah, saved you from Trump's bump stock ban. Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
That's my whole thing is like, okay, what could they have said that would have absolutely have swayed Kyle Rittenhouse to then all of a sudden say that Trump is now pro 2A? I would have loved to have known that.
Good news, isn't it? It's probably pretty good news. They probably told him some good shit.
I hope they put it out there.
I have heard, and this is another like kind of pivotal from what we were talking about earlier, is I've heard, and I don't know if this is from you, Lactoid, or someone else, that Trump could be potentially trying to save a lot of his zingers based on policy and things. One, probably for obviously when she comes out with it, but two, also probably for the debate. In other words, don't reveal all of your cards too early and wait until the debate and then actually throw the zingers. Now, that's a lot of optimism for Trump, who likes to go off the cuff a lot. But yeah, like, so as far as the Rittenhouse and the 2A thing, like, yeah, like Trump is super, like, as far as I can see, not really pro 2A in a lot of those ways. He's kind of leaned a little bit when it came to what was it? The there's some other policies. I have to look at them, but yeah.
But he's overwhelmingly better than Kamala, who has advocated for an assault weapons ban. Right? That is a non-starter.
Yeah, so it's like you have to
just like a point of order here. I'd like to know exactly how this officially relates to taxes as
conservatism.
Well, to be honest, our Second Amendment right does have something to do with taxes, right?
I mean, taxes in general, taxing the income of tips of people that work in the service industry. I just like to know how this relates all the way to that.
Do you not tax your person when you go, like, give a tip to your local gun store when they give you an awesome recommendation on a new firearm? Come on, now.
Tip your landlords. That's what I think. I think that you could actually draw, like, even though I'm against all taxation, I actually do think that not taxing tips makes the most sense if you don't tax regular gifts between individuals to begin with, right? Because in my mind, a tip is actually not required for the service. It's just not, like, legally speaking. If you walk out of a restaurant without giving tip, you're not going to get arrested for theft because a tip is optional. In the same way, giving your mom a birthday card is optional. Or if I give my brother $20 for a ride or $20 for groceries, that's also not taxed, right? It's not over a certain amount. Nobody's going to be looking for that. But all of a sudden, if I give $20 to a waiter, now this is taxed. But when I give $20 to like my friends or my family or even a homeless person, a stranger out in the street, all of a sudden that's taxed. Most of the time, income taxes is supposed to be a tax on money that you have to give in exchange for consideration for a service. But that's not the case with tips. Having tips taxed doesn't make any sense, even from a tax code. So I understand why they're actually targeting tips here. I would like them to expand it to income too, because fuck that, right? But even if you don't want to expand it to income, it still makes sense to not tax tips. So that's why they're going this way.
All right. Does anyone want me to get back in on the conversation that we were having before? Because there's levels where it's like we can at least have it's like, all right, cool. I generally think Republicans are better spenders. I think they're better at
about 5-10 minutes. So do your thing, and
then for the
and better than Democrats generally, right? You would agree?
Oh, absolutely, they're better than the Democrats when it comes to spending. Like this is one of the big reasons I wanted to be a Republican. Like for the open panel, we can do that whole conversation. Like why I don't usually consider myself a conservative, why I do want to be a Republican, even though I fucking hate Trump's guts, yada yada yada. I will happily have this whole chat. All right. So when it comes down to it, look. I think we have a serious problem here when it comes to the budget. We're $35 trillion in debt as of this month for the federal government. Don't even talk about states and municipalities when that all gets combined. All right, cool. Like if people say they want lower taxes, all right, I kind of get that. I totally do. And Lactoid, I even kind of borrow your moral argument where it's like, hey, this isn't consensual, even though there's levels where I think it kind of is, but we can get into the weeds. Representative democracy, it is a thing, okay? But anyway, the long and the short.
Wait. It's a thing unless it's a Democratic primary. Then it's not a thing. Go ahead.
True. Look, and this is where I'm kind of with you guys. Like me, you, and Gibbs were screaming from the rafters and all in unison and agreement that the shit the Dems pulled regarding putting Kamala up with no primary was horseshit. So all right, so let's be on the same team when we can be.
No, you were good on this. Yeah, you were good on this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so all right, look.
Now we just got to get you away from the rest of these lefty takes.
Look, there's levels where I'm gonna have lefty takes because I am at least center right. Okay, I'm not gonna act like I'm hard right or whatever the fuck else it is. Like apparently now Aircraft Sparky's going around saying I'm a fascist. Please,
you're actually a MAGA guy. you're actually a New York Republican in my book. You and Trump have similar policy choices.
Look, you have not had a good take unless a Twitter leftist has called you a fascist. So don't worry about that, okay?
Well, okay. Aircraft Sparky is a former Air Force vet who is sounds a lot like Gibbs, and he's
also called me a fascist. So
is he lefty? That's the only question.
No, he's not left. He's not left. He's like a Rob Noor Republican.
And he called you a fascist?
Yeah, it's great. It's hilarious. There's only two righties that I know of that have called me a fascist: Aircraft Sparky and Phil KOE. It's fucking hilarious.
Phil is called. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, because somehow in some way I want to merge corporate and government power.
I mean, I've kind of.
I think Scott may have called you that too. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he calls everybody a lefty too.
Oh, okay, so 7 out of 10
I think socialism and fascism are tied together intricately.
In some ways they are.
Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad either.
I gotta go soon.
All right, Doc has a dip, so I'm gonna give him an outro. And,
I'm just gonna say this. Look, first of all, Kamala's crowds are large. Accept it. Don't deny it. Don't live with your head in the sand. Stop trying to come up with excuses. Okay. That's something I want to say first and foremost. Secondly, when it comes to taxes, there are ways to maneuver through taxes. Just because you advocate for some kind of a tax, even if it's a tax credit, does not make you a lefty. Okay, the gatekeeping by the right has to stop. If Trump or the Republicans want to win this primary, they need to stop trying to alienate their base, and they need to start actually looking to try to bring in people to their base instead of putting a gate up at their front door. Ironically, we talk about the wall and everything else. Well, it looks like Trump is building a wall around his base. So anyways, I got to bounce, guys. It's been great talking to you guys, and looking forward to our next debate.
Before you go, if you're still here, I want to just give you credit, by the way, for the fact that you brought up that conversation that we had on Twitter, and you acknowledged it publicly. That scores you major points in my book, and there's a lot of people, fanatic, who for some reason can't admit when they're ever wrong on anything. So huge props. Seriously.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. No, I appreciate it. Like I said, I have on my bio on Twitter as the most reasonable conservative because I try to sit there and actually be as reasonable as I possibly can. That means acknowledging the truth, no matter how bad it may go against my narrative. But there are still some core tenet principles that make me a conservative, like pro 2A, pro 1A, things like that. So I am conservative. Anybody who asks, who's actually had like an objectively reasonable standard, can sit there and look at me and go, yes, Doghouse is 2A. He's just calling balls and strikes. It's nothing more. Don't read more into it. So anyways, guys, your most reasonable conservative is going to bounce out. So y'all are left with Gibbs as your most reasonable conservative. Good luck.
Oh, God.
Love you, Doghouse.
Yep. All right. So we're basically at, going to open point. So if anybody needs a dip, needs an outro, by all means. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and go to open. All right. Everybody keep fighting.
So like the general topic at hand, do we want to back up and
yes,
talk about
tell
like
us
my
more
right-wing
lefty. Yeah, tell us more Thai leftist.
Okay, so like there's levels where I'm not gonna just openly be like I am like super right wing because there's levels where I separate. And I'm gonna be real, the right wing's moving. In some ways, Donald Trump is not like super duper right wing either, right? He's kind of moderate. And this is where I kind of go into this in a particular way. I agree with him on like 70% of policy. Like just straight up by a percentage, well, like I agree with him about 70%. Now, did I agree with Biden on like 60 to 65? Also, yes, because there's some levels where there's a lot of overlap there. All right, so let's kind of hit the Republican greatest hit list that I actually largely like support them on, and want to or at least kind of want to like go into this with. I already covered that I think they're better spenders. I think they're actually just more pragmatic, and when it comes to it, they punch above their weight. Republicans are really goddamn good at actually getting what they want when they actually work for it. I'm not going to go into like all the things I have problems with them because then I'm just I'll piss off Gibbs. I think that I really appreciate people who have a diplomatic approach of we are the superpower. We're not going to kiss your fucking hand and kiss your ass as an ally. Like, no, we're going to be leaders. You're going to toe the fucking line, especially you, Germany. Like, if you can't fucking have a defense,
yeah.
If you can't have a defense when you are literally the people who took on the Brits, the Russians, and the French in the last century, and now you're telling me you don't even have one armored division you can put in the field, yeah, you're fucking towing our line, not the other way around. 100% with Republicans on this kind of shit, right? So, like, when it comes to diplomacy,
build anymore,
And by the way, and Trump got a lot of shit for that.
Twice so bad they're afraid to build anything.
Yeah, and Trump got a lot of shit for that. Like I know you're going to agree with this, but Trump did get a lot of shit for I think which was something that was a very good idea, which was fucking pay up, motherfuckers. Like we're paying for your shit.
Look, Trump literally turned Poland into little Texas. I mean, it's very impressive.
I don't know if it was Trump or if it was Poland.
No, it's single-handedly Trump.
I don't know about that, pal. But
I'm also a little bit skeptical of that too. But
don't worry about it. Listen, it's A plus B equals C. There's no web of other things happening here. Remember?
Yeah.
That's what we were told earlier.
All right. So look, there's part one. All right. Part two is excuse me. Or sorry, that was part two. Part three, when it comes to domestic affairs, like the left can't police itself. They like to say they do. They like to say they infight, which kind of is true. But like to the level where we do have that trans conversation, to where it's literally 1.3 million citizens identify as trans, and 40% of those are between the ages of 14 and 17. And the Republicans are bitching a fit. It's like, yo, like there's a problem here. Like there's a mental epidemic that you need to put in check. And the left's just like, nah, kids, we don't have to worry about this shit. No, 100%. The Republicans are dead fucking right on this. Now, do they take it too far in some regards? Maybe. But 100%, like there's no pushback from the left to like keep on their own at all. 100% with them on that. Shit, there was another thing that just kind of popped in my head and I lost it. It's kind of tangentially related to this. Oh, you guys were talking about it earlier. Yeah, they're fucking liars. And like, again, I would want a party that just walks the walk. Unfortunately, I don't think either party does. But let me recap this. Was I a Democrat at one point in my life? Yes. I grew up as a Democrat. Like, Democrats were the party of farmers. My family are from farmers, right? So when it comes to it, like, I got to 2016, and while I didn't like Trump, and I still don't, like, I got disowned by these motherfuckers in a big fucking hurry. They went from the party of, like, love and tolerance to the party of, oh, you're straight and you're white, get fucked. That straight up was what happened. And like, I can't roll with that shit. They're like they say they're not racist. They're racist as holy hell.
Yes.
They are the party who openly said, we're gonna put you in because of you're a black woman. We're gonna put you in because you're a black woman, or the Voltron of identity politics, as I like to refer to Kamala. Like, sorry, no. When it comes to race,
Thinking that one too. That was also.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, we got two. I mean, I've been looking for some new Kamala lines.
I've been saying this for years. I'm surprised y'all didn't pick this up. No, like Kamala is the Voltron of identity politics. That's why they ran with her, right? When it comes down to it, it's like, look, if you want to say that you're not racist, fine, but like, don't tell the entire country you're racist as hell, and then tell everybody that you're not. Like, it's fucking wild. There's so many things.
Fountain back.
Look, there's so many things I actually agree with Republicans on. The problem is that, like, if you want to get into it, I'll get into it. There's shit that I fucking just.
I have a TOS joke for that later.
I bet you do. Look, there's shit that I have hardcore problems with it, and there's levels, and it largely boils down to like the shit that MAGA does. I find it completely incoherent. People are like, oh, I'm conservative, and they're like, I was saying it earlier. I want lower taxes, but I want a balanced budget. I'm like, then cut spending. And I'm like, all right, cool. Lactoid, 100%. If we're going to cut spending, let's do it. But we never fucking do it. We never fucking get it done. And it's like, walk the goddamn walk, guys. If you actually want to get this bitch under control, like, okay, cool. You're going to do something with Social Security, then fucking do it. Because, like, everyone talks about...
That's a political non-starter.
Right. So it's just like... Where do we go? Like, what are we going to cut?
To mess with
well, because it's old people fucking vote. That's why. Suicide. It's because these people have bought into the Ponzi scheme. They're finally at the end where like they get the money out of the Ponzi scheme a little bit, right? And they don't want to give that up. I understand it, but like we got to cut the Ponzi scheme at some time, right? For fuck's sake.
Right. So look, there's so many levels that I can boil this down to, but there's a lot of things I do agree with Republicans on. Like straight up, like I hate Trump, but he's still dead right on most of the major issues when it comes down to it for me. The fact that he's going after the union vote, which is the biggest core group of voters that the Republican Party needs to be going after, he's 100% dead right. Like, my general issue, and I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off with this, is that I think he's guilty of sedition.
Oh, give me a break.
That Georgia phone call.
But okay, all right. You know what? I'll admit he's guilty of sedition if you admit that Biden and Harris right now have committed treason and they should suffer the full consequences of that on the border. I'll admit he's guilty of sedition right now. If you're willing to outright say Kamala and Biden have committed treason, like unequivocally.
Both are crazy claims. There's no way. Sorry.
No, I can actually legally probably tie mine. They can't legally tie that claim.
I'll let Tiberius answer. Go ahead, Tiberius.
Sorry, I fucking disconnected there for a second. Yeah, I don't know how to make that claim. There's levels where I have serious issues with the Biden presidency and the Biden presidency and with Kamala as VP. 100%, I will happily do that. When it comes to our policy, I've seen the laws. Like the problem that like most of the right has is with asylum laws. Do they need reform? 100%. Like, is that treasonous? No, they're actually following the letter of the law.
There's some issues.
Nah, what about tearing down
issues?
Tearing down,
go with issues.
How about tearing down fences erected to secure the Rio Grande that was brought in under treaty? Like, are you consider violating the treaties that the states have with the United States not treasonous?
I know I pissed in your shoes when we had that conversation last, but I actually think it cuts both ways. If I'm going both. No, seriously. Okay, look.
If you sign a contract saying I'm going to do this, and then you do the opposite, is that breaking a contract?
Where does it explicitly say that Texas has control over their border?
We took over, bro. The whole reason the Rio Grande is
in the contract.
Yes.
Bro,
what clause?
When we joined the union, what did they put as the border?
The Rio Grande.
Why?
Because it's a natural barrier.
No, because we fought 2 wars over this bullshit because it wasn't the Nueces River that was going to be the barrier. So we literally fought 2 wars of our own, and when we joined in, they recognized the Rio Grande as the border, which
Texas.
is one of the sparks of the Mexican-American War. So,
100%.
we literally went to war with Mexico over the Rio Grande being the river that was the border, and then now we're sitting here going, oh, we fought this 1 war over this. Guess what, Texas? Go fuck yourself.
Texas history.
Just saying, that's treason. Committing treason. Yes or no? If we did have a contract, hold on. I was breaking a contract between the federal government and a state, not treason. How is that not treason? Because you consider the Civil War the same thing on the opposite way. So why wouldn't this be the exact same thing on the other side?
Are you seceding?
No, the U.S. government's doing their version of seceding. They're not holding their. This is treason. Both sides can commit treason. If we seceded, whatever, we should be. We probably legally have
to be clear, I don't think this is treason whatsoever. But I also don't think it's sedition what Trump did. I don't think it's sedition what Trump did. And
I'm just saying it's more treason. I think when you look at what Trump did as sedition.
I think when you look at it as a whole, I think that it's there's again so much shit is clip chumped from what Trump has said and what Trump has done, to the point where you can construct this false narrative claiming that he's done something that he hasn't done. But I do think that if you think that he has committed sedition, I think that you have to agree that Kamala has committed sedition with her support of the BLM movement during the riots in 2020.
I can't speak for Kamala, but I'll definitely tell you this. Maxine Waters should be in prison.
Okay, well, you're more consistent than most then, but I still think Kamala fits into that category as well.
The only reason I'm not
it's sedition, which I don't think it is, by the way.
Okay, the only reason I'm not throwing Kamala in that bus is because it's been fucking 4 years and I don't remember who all was on that fucking list of just shit.
Man, the internet.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting out for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
Move to California.
Funny is that you're more worried about words than like actual actions. The Biden administration has committed actions that are treasonous, but you're sitting here going, "Oh, Trump said mean words that were followed by peacefully and patriotically. That's sedition."
Okay,
give me a break. All
right. Let's talk about actions.
This the argument's dog water at best.
You will never respect half the arguments I give, no matter what I do with it, Gibbs. Like I love you, but
make a better argument. Make a consistent argument. You can't bitch about oh
my god,
and then not care about actions.
Why is it I can engage with Lactoid on so much of a better level than I can have with you?
Because I'm calling out your dishonesty.
It's hilarious.
Them DDs, right? Gibbs? Them DDs.
Saying, bro, these are the kind of people that don't want driving the car.
Look, I'll just put it this way, Gibbs. Whatever claim you make, I'll at least let Lactoid pitch it, and then I'll see if he agrees with you. Because I just can't you want to call me dishonest, fine. I kind of feel the same way about you, dude. It's like I'm dealing with fucking the showman of Twitch politics. I don't know when you're serious and real, and when you're actually just full of shit. All right, so Lactoid.
I think based off all my other border takes that you would probably assume by now that I would be giving you a 100% real one on the treason take here. I don't understand why you'd be confused about that one.
Okay, so this is the general issue. Like even Lactoid's with me on the border where it's like what the federal government is doing is not treason, right?
He's also a socialist.
Wait. So I don't think it's treason, and this is a critical.
We actually have a socialist, so
this is a critical point.
I'm not a socialist by any metric.
This is a critical point of why I don't believe it's sedition.
Gibbs would call me one.
And this has to do. I read USA versus Trump, the terrifying immunity case in which presidential immunity was granted. And I read it, I made a whole obsidian about it, took notes and all that good shit. And something that Roberts pointed out in the opinion, which I think is very smart, which is that the Supreme Court has consistently ruled the federal government gets the right to enforce border laws. And so because of that, which has been very consistent, I'm not going to say it's treason. Roberts literally says, yes, just because you have a president who enforces laws differently or refuses to enforce certain laws, that doesn't you can't take that to mean treason in the same way that you can't take it to mean that Biden not enforcing certain elements of federal law, that's treason. But then you can't say the same thing about Trump, right? When Trump replaces his AG, that's not treason. In the same way, when Biden like refuses to enforce border laws, that's also not treason, because this is like one of the roles of the executive. The executive gets to enforce the laws.
What if he goes against the laws?
Like so
the president doesn't get to explicitly break a law, but my understanding here,
tearing down fences.
Well, hold on. So specifically the tearing down the fences, that's questionable on the legality, because the federal government does have the right to enforce the border, and they have the right to enforce it either way, right? And so if according to the discretion of the president,
but they don't have that right.
In order to align with asylum, right? In order to like align with asylum laws or whatever other like interpretation the president has, perhaps like, look, I think it's ridiculous for sure, and I think that Biden should be criticized for tearing down those fencing. Obviously, everything was a pretext. But one of the things about the president is the president gets to do pretexts. The president gets to enforce laws the way the president chooses to, because that's the point of an executive branch.
No, that is the point. But here's the issue with what I have with what you're saying, right? And I would generally, for the most part, agree with this. However, I also think there are like binding things, right, with the U.S., right? And I think the Civil War is a good example of this, right? We have a binding contract between the Fed and the states, right? There's a binding contract that is enforced, right? Okay. So we agree, on one side, what the states that did in the South was treason, right? They should tried to secede, et cetera, even though they had good reasons. Now, I think Texas right now has a better reason than even back then to actually say we should secede, because, and this comes back,
the Confederates did not have good reasons.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't. But Texas is a good one today with the border. And the reason for this is we've literally fought a national war over this. And Texas fought its war for independence and then followed it up with a war against Mexico to establish the Rio Grande. And then when we joined, it was recognized internationally. So we have an international level law, which, as the superpower, I don't give two shits what they think, but that just helps my argument. So we're going to bring it in. International law recognizes as the Rio Grande as the fucking, the border. We have the contract between Texas and the United States when they joined, and we sold off part of it to become a state that's recognized. This. We fought a war with Mexico. So this is like, okay, this is established. This is the border. It needs to be enforced. The whole reason is because we were having violent acts committed by Mexico in Texas originally. Now we're having the same problem, and the Biden administration is going down there and forcibly tearing down border, allowing more violent acts to occur in Texas. That is treason. You are breaking the contract between the United States and the state.
I've literally been on a panel with this with you as well as in the past. And look, you're perfectly fine to attack him for this. You're perfectly fine to say that he's being dishonest. But like the idea that he doesn't have the right to do this is wrong. In fact, on the last panel, I think I was pretty clear. If Texas stops the feds, like that's a problem. We can't have we cannot have the federal we cannot have federal police power, the state police powers of Texas disobeying federal law on something the Supreme Court has already ruled on multiple times, and the Supreme Court literally put forward an injunction allowing the feds to go and tear down the border.
All right, there's a reason why
it's the Supreme Court. It is. You're wrong. I'm not wrong.
This is what will separate from you. There's a reason Texas flies its flag equal to the United States flag, because we were our only country. We were the only country to voluntarily join, right? So listen, I get what you're going to come here and say this, but if they're not willing to enforce the contract they made, this is the only time I'll disagree with the Supreme Court as the supreme law of the land, that Texas has the rights and the moral responsibility to defend itself and to defend its borders. If the treasonous Democrats, and the others don't want to protect that border.
I reject this. I reject this. I'll just end on this. Like many other people, I'm not military, but as a lawyer, I did swear to uphold the Constitution, and Texas is beneath the Constitution, and the Constitution applies to you. Texas is part of the United States, and Texas doesn't get to play cowboy. It is the supremacy clause. The United States Constitution reigns supreme, and it reigns supreme over Texas as well. Now, look, you're perfectly fine to attack Biden for this, but in the same way, by the way, that I don't want. Hold on. In the same way that, like, if let's say Trump gets elected and then he does build a border wall, I don't want California exercising their state right or whatever the fuck that means when it comes to immigration to tear down that border. I also don't want Texas to disobey the federal government when it comes to something that the Supreme Court has ruled ruled multiple times the federal government has the right to do, which is enforce and regulate immigration.
No, let's go through this. I'm assuming you've taken a contract law class.
I have taken contracts laws.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so if a party on one half makes a contract and they agree to something, and it's not only is it enforced once, but it's enforced several times, and so it's been an established part of this contract that's usable, and suddenly they start doing the opposite part of that. Does that void the rest of the contract generally?
What clause of the contract are they
violating? Not if those clauses that are not being enforced are unenforceable, and clauses of a contract clauses of a contract that are unenforceable, if they are against the law, they are unenforceable, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And so when the Supreme Court says that it's illegal for Texas to do something,
hold on. So
in terms of service. If Texas hit the button that says they accept the terms of service, then they're on the hook. There's no way to call treason.
And if the terms of service, and if the terms of service, one of those is, hey, we're joining for protection on the border, specifically this border, and they say all of a sudden we're not doing that, and that's 99% of the reason we joined in the first place. Guess what? Then guess what? That voids the contract because you're not upholding the one thing, the major thing.
Have the literal
hold on. That means that the whole contract. If I join and say, listen, if we join and say, hey, we want for protection, Rio Grande, we want protection from the Mexico. This is the main reason we'll sell off part of our land so we can join. So we have our debt taken care of. We do all these things, and it's like A, the Mexican border, B, the debt taken care of. Those are the two main reasons, right? That we join. Okay, that's it. And then in the terms of service say, okay, we have to enforce those, and then you accept the terms of service. Guess what? If you break one of those, it doesn't matter what we agreed to in the terms of service.
No, you forgot the ultimate terms of service, which is the Constitution is the law of the land, and it grants the federal government the supremacy clause to the point where the president gets to determine how immigration law is enforced. That is the ultimate terms of service.
But if you don't fought a civil war over that, then why would we accept those terms? We're not accepting those terms. That's what we're saying.
There's nothing in the Constitution. There's nothing in the Constitution. No, there's nothing in the Constitution.
He's absolutely just because the supremacy clause is above does not mean they're not committing treason. They're not upholding their agreement, and that's what it's treason. It's absolute treason. I mean, no, but you're acting like breaking the supremacy clause is the only way to commit treason.
Should we give this one up? Because it's like, what clause was violated?
There's nothing in the Constitution that gives Texas the right to control immigration over its own border. It just doesn't exist because there's something majorly.
It's a literal invasion.
No, there's something. It's not a literal invasion. No,
it's a literal invasion. They're tearing down in groves areas.
Listen.
There's videos of it.
The reason why the Supreme Court very astutely is granting the feds, in this case, control over the border, even if you think that Biden's being dishonest, which is perfectly fine to attack him with, Trump's been doing it the whole time, and he's running for president of the federal government. The reason why is not only A, does the law explicitly grant the feds the ability to do this, but B, more importantly, the government doesn't get to prevent people from crossing state lines into other states because we're one country. If you have Texas that's regulating immigration in an astoundingly different way than California, you are literally setting up a country with two systems in which we have immigration in one state that they can get in there and just go over the border to another state. So the same way that California doesn't get to ignore the feds, Texas also doesn't get to ignore the feds.
They already do. They have the sanctuary cities, bro. They're already doing the two states. And then Biden's not enforcing the laws that are on the books.
Nothing to do with the border.
No, it's exactly the same. And then they're flying them in.
No,
come on, just got busted for flying people in. This is just all bullshit and hogwash out of you, bro. Let
me bring this back to where I was getting. It's not treason for the feds to control the border in the way Biden's doing it. And in the same way, it's not treason what Trump did when he fired his AG. It's not treason what Trump did when he tried to investigate voter fraud, or what he believed to be, as the president of the United States, what he believed to be voter fraud happening in the 2020 election. That he gets to do that as the president, and that's not treason. That's one of his abilities and powers granted by the Constitution. That's what the Supreme Court ruled. That's obviously the case when it comes to what the office of the presidency means. And so, no, I reject this. Biden's not committing treason by being an asshole on the border, just like Trump is not committing treason by being an asshole about the 2020 election.
That's ridiculous.
All right, so here's where I separate with you a little bit, Lactoid, and you like if you're gonna shut me down, like please do. Long and short here, like my general issue with Trump is the fact that he claims that the 2020 election was rigged. He has not been able to prove that in court, and now he is openly putting on election boards MAGA party officials who believe that and are willing to go into the next election saying that they will not certify if it is not clear and present that the election basically goes for Trump. Like, that's sedition.
No, it's not. I'm going to argue this one. I want to argue this one. This was actually one I
don't respect you enough on this to do this. Like,
that's fine. I don't care if you respect me. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, though. Listen, bro, we're talking about respect. I don't think you want to get into that battle. Listen, so like that's a fair. You're going to lose that one every time. Secondly, like, let's talk about something.
Okay, Trump.
You're I mean, bro, we don't need to compare nuts to nuts. It's going to be a dick measuring contest. Yours is we're going to call you cheese wheel, bro. Now, I don't want this action. You don't want it, all right? So secondly, now, like, let's talk about these officials. You're telling me, and there were some sus things that happened on election. Now, I haven't been convinced there was fraud, but there have been investigations. In fact, we just found one, Ken Paxton, who here in Texas, if you're from Texas, like, he's kind of a weird guy, not everybody's favorite guy. He's kind of corrupt, but even this guy's going, oh, shit's rigged, and he's over here finding stuff. They found evidence here in Texas. We found evidence, and I've seen other states have kind of found evidence now. Florida found some stuff. More and more, like, stuff has come out. Hey, there was kind of some sus things, but you're going, there's no evidence. Okay, cool. There might not be evidence on the mass scale, but the reason why we don't is
he has failed to prove it in a court of law.
It's coming up. It's in courts now. And secondly, the Dems, you're sitting here. It's like whenever, like, you don't trust Exxon to investigate itself.
Which court? Which court is it in? You said it's in courts now. No, you said it's in courts now. Which court is it in? Please,
I'll look it up in a second.
You're the one.
I will look it up. I'll look it up in a second. I'm mid soliloquy. I will substantiate. Give me a minute. Yeah, I'm mid rant. You asked me to do this mid. I got my hands in the air. You want me to start typing with my dick or what? Like, goddamn, bro. Like, I'm sitting here.
Apparently, it's big enough.
Yeah, if it's big enough, it's gonna hit the whole keyboard, not the whole time. Listen, I'm not a fucking needle dick like somebody over here. I don't have the precision. So let's go. Anyway, back to what I'm saying. I'm about to hit you with a hammer if you keep going here.
Physical ability is what you're saying. You don't have the precision. You haven't worked your dick that much.
It's too big, Bubba. I do know. Yeah, bro. Listen. Maybe all right, we're not going to go. Anyway, furthermore, are you going to trust, like, Exxon to go and investigate themselves? No, I'm not going to go trust them to investigate themselves. I'm even a pretty big capitalist guy. But you're going to, Mr. Conservative Tiberius over here, he's going to trust those dishonest Dems to investigate themselves and you can sit here and find all these evidence of this fraud when they're the ones committed it. It's the most ridiculous idea that, like, Trump has no leg to stand on. I'm not saying he's right. I'm just saying there has been some evidence, some shit that's come out that was a little sus. And then for you to sit here and go, he hasn't proved it at court of law. Well, no shit. I mean, no shit. He's been fucking hit up on, like, what, 39 charges on that one of them?
Courts alone.
Oh, like, my dude,
God. We have Republican judges and
Republicans. And the Republicans are finding things.
12 of the 60 judges were appointed by Trump himself, and they didn't even vote in his favor.
Oh, and by the way, I shared the court thing on my Twitter already earlier today. So go ahead, free plug. Thanks actually for the free plug, Desparo Sensei. If you want to see the thing, I shared it. Greg Abbott posted it today as well. Shared Kid Paxton. So you can look at Greg Abbott's Twitter or Admiral Gibbs's, and you'll find the evidence of the court case.
I still want the court. Please tell me which courts that this is actually in right now.
Republican ones.
Wow,
okay, good, fantastic.
Which circuit?
It doesn't matter.
Go look. Listen, you can go in there and look. I posted it. Give me some views on my page. It's on my Twitter. You ask, it's there.
Motherfuck.
How you like the way that dick tastes? Nom nom.
Jesus Christ, Lactoid. Like.
Yeah, it tastes like dick cheese is what it tastes like.
All right.
I love you, Gibbs. Jesus Christ. Keep going.
Fucking smegma is what it is.
Right,
I don't know why people try to get roast battles with me at Twitch Bowl. Like, you're going to lose this one.
You're good at them. Fuck.
All right. Lactoid. Like, okay, I know there's some levels where we can get into this, and you're probably going to take me to task on some of this shit, but there's levels where it's like, okay, if we can't fucking, like, nail Trump to the wall, fine. But like, let's be real, he's gotten too close to the sun on some really heinous shit, right? Like particularly with the federal courts documents trial, right? And if we want to say, hey, look, he's not getting judged by the same standard that Obama, Biden, and Pence are going by, I can float that. I will happily float that. But like the problem I'm consistently looking at here, and like this is where I lose you a little bit, is one, he's the most sued person in human history. Two, he's got enough fucking charges out the ass that like one of these are going to stick, right? He is going to be a convicted felon one way or another for something he actually did do wrong. And three, like the way he's gone about this, or dude, the Democrats piss me off post 2020 because the election was rigged, the Russians did shit. Nothing that actually happened was illegal or beyond the pale.
Yeah.
Yes, right? Nothing in which happened was illegal or beyond the pale. There was some shady looking shit, sure. But even like when all the documents came out, fucking Giuliani, the scumbag that he is, literally told the Russians to get fucked. It's like, look, we don't have to work with you. We don't need to work with you. Get lost. Like they literally told them that. And so like we had to listen to the Democrats bitch for 4 years about how the election was rigged. And then the Republicans go up one whole like order of magnitude worse to where they are still saying the previous election was rigged. The guy who's nominated is saying the previous election was rigged. And on top of that, like we're now seeing people put in who are just going to deny the election, or we assume, right? We can't prejudge somebody until they actually commit this. But we now know that they're openly trying to at least put people in who do not believe the last election was certifiable. And if Trump isn't clearly the winner, they're probably going to say this round isn't certifiable. Like, dude, this is some heinous shit.
Okay.
Like, this is really hard for me to get behind.
Couple things. I'm going to agree with you that the 2016 Russia shit was bullshit. It especially didn't affect Trump's policy, given that Trump broke from Obama and actually provided lethal arms to Ukraine, which would not be what you would see if he was a Russian puppet. Yet you have the Dems running with this Russian puppet meme for how fucking long, despite the fact that the Russian-Ukrainian war began in 2014 under Obama, and the invasion happened in 2022 under Biden. For some reason, despite being a Russian puppet, he was particularly good at preventing the Russians from getting what they wanted. So that's a bizarre claim by the Democrats. I think that was crazy. In terms of the false election claims, if you want to say that you think that Trump is wrong and you think that he's an idiot for being wrong and that you think that should affect your vote, I don't think that that's necessarily an objectionable opinion, right? For me, it's not a deciding factor. But if for you, like you find this to be a deciding factor, that's, I guess, a credible position. But what I don't believe is that you can take this, that somebody's opinion on the vote being rigged in 2020, that this is a crime, that this is sedition, that this is something that would otherwise disqualify Trump from being president. The reason why it's very transparent. The reason why you're seeing people insist on using words like sedition and insurrection, especially insurrection, is not because they actually give a fuck about what specifically Trump did. It's because they're desperately trying to disqualify him, and there is the Constitution does, and the 14th Amendment does have clause 3, Article 3 indicates that if you've done this, then you're not eligible to be president. That's arguably, by the way. I don't even think that's the case, but arguably that's the case. That's why they want to attach this label.
Also, I want to differentiate myself from those people on the Biden stuff.
No, I'm sure. In just 1 second. So that's why this is happening. But when you look into each one of these cases, the vast majority of the shit that's happening to Trump is absolute bullshit. The New York trial is complete bullshit. The Georgia call is complete bullshit. The only case that I said, which by the way, ironically, was the one that was recently dismissed. The one case that I still think, despite the fact that it was dismissed, because I don't really agree with it.
I don't think it's totally dismissed.
It was it was dismissed. That dismissal is going to be appealed. That dismissal is based on the concurrence of Thomas in the presidential immunity case, U.S. versus Trump. It's not even based on the majority opinion. It's based on a concurrence. I think it's relatively weak. I don't really agree with it because if you follow that logic, then every special counsel, including Robert Hur and Ken Starr, are not. They're not. What's the term? Well, I want to say relevant, but credible. They're not. They're not official, right? Which is just not the way that works. But the only case I think that really has any legs whatsoever is the Florida documents case, where he was storing documents in Mar-a-Lago, just from a raw legal perspective. But here's why you shouldn't even give a fuck about that. Because even if he technically committed a crime when he kept documents when he wasn't supposed to, it is a crime by mere technicality. As president, he could have declassified all those documents. The only allegation, which is probably true, is that he just didn't do it. He could have declassified all of that, but he just didn't do it. So why the fuck should I care? Seriously, why should I care that somebody who could have just declassified all of it and then it wouldn't have been a crime? He could have done it, no problem.
He
could have just waived it.
Willful retention.
Well,
no. Once you declassify it, you can retain it. You can You can retain it locally. You can retain it non-locally. You can put it on the internet. It's declassified. You can do whatever you want with it. He, as president, he had the authority to do so.
Why didn't he?
Because he forgot. Because he forgot to do it. That's the only reason, right? It's a technicality. He forgot to do it, and so now they're saying that he was in possession of classified documents, which again, legally, is probably the case.
I forget to show up to my court date. Do I get to have another?
That's
trial?
totally different.
The reason why it's different, it would be like if you happen to say like mumbo jumbo alakazam, then you wouldn't have to go to your court date, but you just forgot to say mumbo jumbo alakazam, and then you missed your court date, right? Where it's like, it's like technically, it's like technically.
Case though.
No. I started off by saying this is the only case that actually, legally speaking, probably has legs. And legally speaking, like if this actually went to trial, I think Trump probably would get convicted, and I wouldn't even necessarily disagree with that conviction from a legal point of view. Yep. But I don't give a fuck because it's a technicality. All the other lawfare that's using as Trump is complete bullshit. It's partisan hackery. This is the one that they actually do have Trump doing something illegal on. And it's bullshit. Like it's not bullshit, but like, holy shit, this is what we're going after now. Jesus Christ!
It's Simon. He forgot to say Simon Says.
He forgot to say Simon Says. Yes, because he could have declassified all of it. He could have. Nobody denies that.
Real clear. I want to differentiate myself from what I'm doing with the treason term with him. I actually think that that Biden should be put on trial for treason because I think he's actually broken the contract as opposed to Trump, who they're just trying to disqualify. I think they're totally different things when we come down to it, right? Like I think it's important to make sure that difference is set out there, just so we're clear.
Right. All right. So, Lactoid, like this is where I do split hairs with a lot of folks. I think January 6th was a riot. I don't think it was insurrection. So I don't go with the left where it's just like, oh, he's disqualified on that. And I would love for that case to actually just go through the entire court system. And in fact, I wish it would have been expedited purposely so we could at least have said, hey, Colorado, at least you had a point in doing it. But instead, they fired the gun before it was even, loaded. And I agree with the Supreme Court on that one. Like they were literally They were literally punishing him before he was convicted.
9-0, yeah. Crazy.
100%. So I actually agree with that. When it comes down to it, excuse me. There's levels where I'm going to just say this. I don't even know if this is like getting into TOS, but I'm just going to put it out here. Okay. It's one thing to say shit, and maybe you mean it, maybe you don't. I don't know how much the Republicans and MAGA actually believes this. But let's go along with it for the moment. The claim is that the Democratic Party in multiple states has conspired to rig the election so that they at minimum got the presidency in. Now we'll ignore the fact that somehow they were incompetent, that they barely eked out any kind of really good margins in the House or the Senate, right? It's just they got their guy in the presidency. And they conspired in multiple states to do that. Forget that we even had to put this to trial. Is that not Cassius Belli for Civil War?
I believe that the First Amendment protects, legally speaking, the people's ability to doubt elections. Do I think that do I think this is like a good opinion to hold? I don't. I wish there was more evidence before people made sweeping claims like they do.
Okay,
So
so that's part one, right? And this is where I'm like, that's something I'm horrifically pissed off at Republicans at right now, is that you want to claim that the election was outright stolen, right? And then we're just gonna go into the next election.
Well, why do you have a problem with them trying to ensure it wasn't stolen? Like, okay, I get what. No,
number one, I didn't say that. Number two,
but
I'm about to rag on the Dems.
But hold on, let's just take your first critique though, right
there.
Let
him rag? Okay.
I do. I want to just ask him real quick. So you say I'm pissed off because they said it could be. Whenever they sat here, they didn't riot. They except for maybe you could call January 6th a riot. Okay, but other than that, like they didn't really it wasn't like across the nation kind of like full scale insurrection or riot or anything like that. But they did go, hey, this seems sus. Now our platforms, we think it was stolen, and to ensure that it's not stolen in the future, we want to do this. And you're mad because they either didn't go far enough and go to war about it, or B, they should just shut up and take their L. Like that's kind of the take you're having right now with the Republicans, and I take issue with that because I think I don't think it was stolen, but I think there was some sus shit that happened, and I would like maybe we go take a little closer look at some of the shit to make sure it's not happening. And maybe not make sure it doesn't happen in the future. And like that response seems to be,
we at least should have voter ID like every country in Europe. Except
voter ID is outrageous.
Except for the UK, every country in Europe has voter ID.
I'm 100% okay with voter ID.
But that's just one example.
Damn it. Yeah, like okay. So number one, I'm 100% providing voter ID, and preferably like people just get the state will cover the cost of
automatic voter registration should also go with that at the same time.
Sure, I'm 100% with that. Like
my state's fantastic. We have same day voter registration. You have to have an ID, but if you can't afford an ID, the state will send you one.
Yep.
Easy.
I say automatic. Just
fucking
make
awesome.
it automatic that you're automatically registered to vote.
So Gibbs, you have a point. Like shut up. Every moment or every now and again, you do come at me with a couple of knives that I have to think about. And I congratulate you because I told people on this panel about 2 weeks ago about your SCC knife that you throw at me. You had a point there too. So there's a level where what you're saying is true, where it's like, hey, look, we're kind of putting in the guys to actually try to fix this, and there's a level where that actually has teeth. I wanted to put this in perspective, at least for me to rag on the Dems real quick, and then we can kind of go full circle. My problem with the Republicans, I lined out with, like, you think the election was stolen, but you didn't fucking, throw the brick at the Democrats. At the same time, the Democrats want to say that the Republican Party basically launched an insurrection to stop the election, which is basically saying that no matter what fucking happens, Republicans are not going to accept that they're going to get an election. Right, or that whenever they lose an election, and so they're going to do everything they can to just basically obfuscate it to the point where all hell breaks loose, which also is a Cassius belly for civil war. So, like, one way or another, I'm looking at both parties and I'm like, if I'm taking you fuckers at your word, why are we not killing each other right now? And I'm not saying that like hyperbolically. There's a level where it's like, if the claim is X, why is not the logical outcome what happens?
Look, the civil war needs to be avoided, and there's some people on Twitter I've seen in streamers in this space who've advocated for, if Trump wins, to immediately deem him ineligible for the presidency because of the alleged insurrection in 2020, and to strip him of the presidency. That would be horrific. I think that might actually, if that happens, that might actually lead to some serious. Unfortunate. I don't want it to happen, but that could lead to some terrible.
It can happen.
There's a lot of things that can happen that I don't want to see. Like if I was to be a Democrat and I have heard that Donald Trump as a nominee has said that the last election was stolen and they don't agree with it. What's to stop me from, after this election, when I lose, saying, well, they stole the election, I don't agree with it, and I'm willing to fight over it. Like, I'm actually terrified of where we're at right now. I really am.
Well, that's why we need people checking to see if it's real or not. Like,
I got a quick question.
That's the whole point.
The problem is we don't trust each other enough to actually
This is the major question, Gibbs. What is the scenario? And can you give me like the actual the terms to an election in which Donald Trump loses and you don't think it was stolen. Can you give me exactly how that would play out? Yes.
I mean, I don't think that the 2016 one I don't think the one that he lost was stolen. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think it was. I mean, I like I said,
but
I've seen some evidence there were some places where such shit happened. Do I think it was wide enough scale they got him like not elected? No.
Right.
But I think there's where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's take a look at that and find out. I mean, if I got ants coming in my house and I kill the ants and then they show up again the next day, I don't just go,
it was an unprecedented election, right? Just because
I'm gonna
go
look where the ants come from.
It was during COVID. We had way more mail-in ballots than ever before. We had states doing shit that they hadn't done before. It was one of the first elections where we didn't fucking know who the president was for how many? It was weeks or some shit.
Yeah, it was a few weeks.
It was one of the first elections in which we had so many states that the count was so close that we had to do recounts, and each state had a different way to recount their votes. It wasn't like
crazy. And the mail-in votes were still coming in too, and they were discovering like batches of mail-in votes in certain areas, which again is
not suspicious.
That was by design. But that part was by design.
Well, sometimes it was.
They tried to make it so that when mail-in votes come in early, they could be counted early, so that by the time election day came in, the mail-in ballots would be largely counted. And the Republicans kept blocking that rule because they wanted the mail-in. They wanted the election to be delayed as much as it could. It was to their advantage.
Not to mention,
because then they could complain about it.
You also had it where states had particular rules with mail-in ballots where it was like a particular time on a particular date that if it was in, it would be counted. And in other states, as long as the stamp put on the letter was before the election date, it could still be counted. So they were still waiting for mail to come in from people that, like, say, voted on a base in like Korea on the last day for that mail-in ballot to come in, and it takes sometimes anywhere from 5 to 12 days for you to get your mail in from like overseas. So that's part of the reason why some of these recounts,
including military voters.
No, I get that, but I'm saying because of COVID, this was dramatically a different kind of election.
Not necessarily.
I'm not saying it was stolen, but this was a different election than we've ever had.
But this is the argument I'm having, right? I'm not calling for outright civil war over this. I just want to make clear. I have said, and I'm not saying that I think Trump even actually got it rigged. However, I am saying there was a few faces. It was sus. Why don't we take a look at this shit? And then when I say that, people are like, Gibbs, look at you. You're sitting here trying. These guys stole the election. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. I'm just saying, hey, maybe, why? And then, who's going to investigate this, right? Ty brought this up. He goes, well, we don't trust anybody. Okay, absolutely. So then we need to get two fuckers that hate each other or some kind of bipartisan thing, and we need to get y'all in there, and y'all both sit there, maybe on camera or like a live stream like C-SPAN, and maybe you'll go through each fucking thing at a single time or something. We spend money on frivolous shit like language of butchers in France. Why don't we spend some money on this shit? This is a real thing they spent money on. They spent money studying a language of French butchers. Why the fuck are we studying that and spending American taxpayer dollars on that whenever we can be spending this on some investigations this shit? And people go, oh, well, you want the Trump to be investigated? Well, yeah, sure. Guess what? If they're actually doing some crimes, investigate them. I don't give a fuck. But let me tell you, whenever you can't sit here and tell me I'm some revolutionary when I'm going, wow, we're spending money on this bullshit over here, that shit. And then, I don't know, random bullshit that there's all sorts of, I can pick a ton of studies that they fucking gave American taxpayer dollars to, and then not funded this, and people go, oh, that's just crazy, Gibbs. That's just crazy. You're just telling people about the steal. And I'm like, okay, buddy, give me a break. It's common sense.
No, but I mean, this is the general question you need to ask people is what are the conditions in which, let's just say, for somebody who is MAGA, Trump loses the election, but you still accept the results. If they cannot provide this for you, then they're in literal cognitive dissonance.
So there's levels where I want to make two things perfectly clear. There's levels to where I am absolutely neck deep in the political animus that is out and about. There's levels to where like I personally and deeply despise Trump. Even though I agree with him on like 70% of the issues. It's just like I don't think he's a moral actor. And I'm not gonna get into that whole like bitch because like my morals are different than your guys' morals because I don't think taxation's theft, but I do think there's some problems with it. Right? Where it comes down to it for me is that like I'm trying to figure out like which way is up, and I wish I could say it any other better way, but like if I take any political party at their word and like actually what they're saying means anything, then like we've crossed the line. And so, all right, cool. Well, we clearly are going to ignore that. So where do we stand? Like, this is where I'm completely lost. And like, I'm mad at everybody personally. Like, I don't really want to vote for Democrats right now. I don't really want to vote for Republicans right now either, because I don't really trust anybody all that much. If I'm being 100% frank with all of you.
Here's what we do, Tiberius. We vote for Trump, and then once he gets elected, he can never be president again because he's had his 8 years. The best way to get rid of Trump is by electing him this time around.
Mm-hmm. And maybe he fixes the economy.
There's a level where that's kind of true. All right. But also it's like, okay, I have no idea what Harris's policies are going to be. I could agree with him somewhat. I could agree with him not at all. You guys were kind of talking about that earlier. If it's a knockdown, drag-out fight, I'm probably going to agree with Republicans more than Democrats, just on the level. Like the infrastructure bill was a great example of this, and another reason why I'm kind of pissed at everybody. The Democrats wanted like $1.2 trillion in extra spending. Rich, you got some stuff in your beard. They wanted like a $1.2 extra trillion in spending, and basically it was a Green New Deal light, right? A lot of it was for shit that wasn't even infrastructure. Republicans got them down to $200 billion extra, and most of it was infrastructure. Most of it was bridge reconstruction. Some of it's going into I-49, I-69, shit that's helping out here in the Midwest. And I've seen the results here personally. We've had 8 bridges in my home county. I've now moved, literally in the last month, but 8 bridges in my home county have been replaced because of the infrastructure bill. Like road construction throughout my entire state has more than doubled in the last since that bill has been passed.
Let me ask you a question.
Midwest, the roads are always under construction. I live here too.
Hold on. Didn't you just earlier say? Hold on. Didn't you earlier just say? I'm going to quote you on this. That y'all had a surplus in Indiana.
We do.
Why the fuck are my tax dollars going to fucking fund your roads in Indiana whenever you have a fucking surplus? Like, this is the kind of shit.
Same thing with FEMA.
That pisses off Republicans.
You want to punish states that have surplus?
No, I want them to fucking use their goddamn money on their own goddamn state. It's not that goddamn complicated. I don't know.
You'd prefer that money go to only states that have massive deficits?
No,
are you gonna
don't give the money at all? You encourage states that are good financially, so they have money to spend on their own shit, and then you punish states that are bad financially because they got shitty roads now.
Yeah, so but
you let them become shitholes.
Well, is that what
you let them become shitholes, and people move out of those states to the good states, and maybe eventually those states realize that they're turning into the third world.
That's why everyone's leaving California, right? Because California is so horribly mismanaged that everyone's like getting the fuck out. Like, why should the federal?
And so housing prices must be dropping there, right? Because demand for housing must be low.
No, it is undeniable that California, like when you look at the migration out of California. I understand the housing pricing is ridiculous, but that is
California is turning into Somalia.
Right, but if people were leaving without an influx of people entering to take their place, right, then housing prices would drop.
So they are having influx. They are having immigration.
You're partially right. Hold on, you're partially right. So there is a when you have people leaving and you don't have as many people coming in, that is a negative pressure on housing pricing. But there are still other things that can cause housing pricing to go up, even when you have people leaving, such as regulation, which California has plenty of, such as zoning laws, for example, which California has plenty of.
Bill Maher has famously talked about the solar panels he tried to put on a shed in his backyard.
And he couldn't fucking do it.
10 years.
Bill Maher hates California.
But it was a long
10 years to put up solar panels in your own fucking house. That's not even America. That's California. Jesus.
But hold on. One other thing that you're not factoring in that's important about California is they actually are having immigration to California. They're just not as much leaving. But the problem is the people going to California are all the homeless people from all the other states. No, there is evidence. It's because like states like Texas are passing anti-camping laws.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying it's the homeless people that are buying up all the houses to keep the price up? Is that what's happening?
I'm saying they're going out there and they're turning San Francisco.
There's a little bit of a contradiction here.
No, they're all turning. No, they can't live. They can't afford the homes out there, but they can survive in the weather. So they turn it into shit city, and we get the poop.
But who's keeping the housing? Who's creating the pressure upward pressure? Like eventually, even
software engineers and politicians.
The bad regulations.
So, like, I want to answer Gibbs's take here because there's a level where, like, I kind of get his point, and there's some level where I want to separate. So, like, hey, why should Texas scholars go to Indiana, or vice versa? To your credit, we are more of a federal taker than we are a sender, a sender. There's only about 12 states that are senders, and they're all the big states, highly populated, right?
Well, there's a reason for that, by the way, because that's factoring in things like disability rates, with Social Security receipts, etc.
Right. So, like, I'm gonna split hairs on that one because I think it's a huge conversation. I will make the case that why should certain states get money? I think Colorado and Wyoming should absolutely get federal money because they don't have enough people to maintain their major interstates, particularly when they have to snowplow 6 months out of the year for major passes and shit. So I'm cool if they get money. I'm going to make the case that Indiana should be getting a lot of federal dollars because our interstates are fucking packed with everybody else's goods and services. We are literally the crossroads of America. And you can see that on road uses maps. All of our shit, our railways, our waterways, and particularly our roadways are packed full of goods and services going between Texas and Illinois and Ohio and pretty much everything around us. So I'm going to say, yeah, like, you know what? You guys need to, give us a couple dollars so that you guys can get your shit through our state. And I don't think that's unfair. I will absolutely get into where Gibbs is like, hey, you know what? Why does certain states like California get a bunch of money for some of the shit that they're doing when they don't deserve it? 100%. There's some states that I absolutely will bitch a fit at. But that's my answer to you, Gibbs. I think there's levels where like we do have to kind of rely on each other. And, sometimes some of us, Indiana, do some heavy lifting that actually services the other states. A lot of our oil, or a lot of your guys' oil and natural gas runs through this state too. You want to keep selling it?
I like you. I like you.
Dip, so.
Yeah, last thing I'll say. I like you. I've been to Indiana. It is my least favorite state of all the states. I'm sorry. I've been every time I go there. It's just roads and gas stations.
Never been to Iowa.
And I've been to Iowa. I have been to Iowa, and it's not as bad. Okay. Thank you guys so much for all the discussion. Really appreciate it. If you like what I had to say, you can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Yeah, sounds good. Catch you guys later.
Appreciate you, Lactoid.
I love you, Lactoid.
Have a good night.
And
Ty, you have been addressed in the chat. Apparently, an individual named KOE Nation made a bet with you that Trump was going to be the.
All right, just 1 second, and then we're going to write on out right into Gibbs because he always streams forever, and so it'll pick up right where it left off. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of Lactoid TV. I really appreciate the views, the follows, bits, subs, all that great shit that you guys do for me. I cannot appreciate it enough. Thank you. And also for all of you who are active in chat, love it. Even when you're fighting with me, that's what I like to see. I'm going to write on out into Gibbs, or actually, I'm going to write out into Lethe Water Kai, just because he was kind enough to host us, and we rate on into Gibbs quite a bit anyway, and we'll continue to do that, of course. But it's good to give Lethe a little bit of love here and then. So, all right, thanks.
And it's not going to get better anytime soon, but